Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And SandyClaws.
And Jacob Wile, too.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Ding.
All right, that's right, folks. This movie needs no introduction. We are talking about Batman 89. This is another one that's kind of a long time coming. It's like I'm honestly genuinely surprised that Dragon, you can attest to this. When I first brought up the possibility of doing a 30th anniversary podcast, I was like, yeah, we could, but the problem is we've already done it, right? We've already done like a retrospective on all the Batman movies, and you're like, no, we've only done Batman Returns. And I'm like, really? That seems like something that we would have done by now.
Yep.
So, alas, we're here to officially talk about, the second of the two Burton Batman movies. Of course, we did way back in the day. We did Christmas in July, or not Christmas in July, seasonal shenanigans on Batman Returns, featured in our I Can't Believe It's Christmas segment. So now for the 30th anniversary, we're just going to kind of do one of our retrospectives, kind of go through the characters, go through the pros and cons, talk through this thing, give it our seal of analytical approval, if you will. With that in mind, we're going to get into nostalgia and also just kind of thesis statements on the overall movie. And for that, I am going to throw it into the big bat fan in the room. Let's hear Dragon first.
All right. So 89. So for me, 89, I have to backtrack a little here because, of course, Batman the Animated Series famously has always been my introduction to, Batman, to heroes as a concept, to, learning right from wrong. So Batman the Animated Series always kind of left an indelible impression on me, huge Hall of Fame for me. I mean, the only thing that predates Batman in my life is Toy Story / just kind of Pixar as a whole. I mean, that's the only thing that predates Batman as a whole. But of course, I mentioned Batman the Animated Series. There is no Batman the Animated Series without Batman 1989. Simple fact. My first introduction to 89 is a very unusual one. It was actually a misconception. So I'm going to take you all back now, so strap in. Remember back when Bravo was a thing, Bravo TV, when they would have like all the, back when top 10 lists, you have to tune in on TV to watch them, like top 20, top 10, with all sorts of those lists.
I remember those lists more on the E! Entertainment Network, but yes, generally speaking, I know the concept.
Same deal, just on Bravo.
Yeah.
And they would count down movie villains, they would count down villains, they count down heroes, they count down just the memorable films, all that sort of stuff. And they were doing a countdown, I guess, of comic book films, just superheroes, one of the two. And because I think had to be movies, so they were counting down. And again, this is like way back when. So when they were counting down, they got to Batman. They're talking about 89, but they were basically talking about the impact 89 had, and the big, the famous tone shift in Batman, going from the 60s show to 89. And they used clips from the 66 movie, where Batman's like beating the shark and everything. So they had that simultaneously with Batman fighting the Joker, in kind of the climax of 89. Basically, I wasn't quite, it was way back when I wasn't quite discerning which was which, just kind of based on as it was coming, because I'd seen neither before. And basically it was kind of, my impression was they were talking about the TV series and they were talking about the movie, and basically the clips, I guess I don't know, I get the timing wrong in my young child mind or something. Basically my impression was that the Batman TV show was 89 and that the 60s Batman was the movie.
Oh no.
So specifically, I was thinking oh my God, this Batman show looks amazing.
That's
so eventually, oddly enough, just by complete coincidence, again, just with it on my mind, at some point I kind of caught it on TV.
I love it.
I caught 89 airing on TV. Again, I was full aware that, again, there was a movie, not a TV series in that moment, but I was watching it. And again, I was, the opening misdirect was, was with kind of, the family in the alley was, very, again, going into Batman, again, not short of the animated series. The animated series I had been familiar with at that time, but again, just kind of seeing Batman in live action for the first time. It's like, okay, let's see where we're going with this. And it was just, I was kind of blown away by it on, I was blown away by it on TV. It just feels like kind of goes scene to scene, but it was quite riveting. And And of course, this would lead me to check out the other movies on VHS tapes. That's how I kind of watched the other Burton film, and of course the Schumacher film. So that's my nostalgia for '89. Of course, I think we can all, most of us are very simpatico on the Batman DVD box set that came back. That came out way back when with the Burton Schumacher films. It had the great Shadow of the Batman Cinematic Journey, Shadow of the Bat documentary, all that sort of stuff. Basically, a set with all the 2-disc DVDs all in one set, which is really cool. Little did they know Nolan would come out later on. That would always be kind of permanently incomplete. But you take what you get. Anyway, so in terms of my thesis, looking back on Batman, because you got to remember, folks, not only is this the 30th anniversary of Batman '89, this is also, so appropriately does it fall within the same year that Batman turns 80 as a character. Batman's been around for 80 years and has left just kind of changed the world and still ever changing.
Another Batman '89 retrospective for Batman's 89th birthday.
That we should. So, point being, so again, looking back on this, in honor of, the 80 years of Batman, but also specifically, 30 years of '89, just kind of rewatching, just kind of reanalyzing, just kind of being here for what we're here talking about today. I feel I kind of had a different read on it. I don't mean different in a bad way, man. I had kind of a more enlightened view than I had in the past. Because '89, I know like the back of my hand. Because again, you rewatch them until the Nolan films come out. Because it's like it's the only Batman that you had. And of course, when those movies come out, they play them all the time. And Batman again, it's like kind of like Don or Superman in terms of like, again, these are kind of built-in Americana and kind of the blueprints for the superhero movies. Superman in terms of how you do the origin story. Batman in terms of how you make the summer blockbuster. So, for me, I guess my thesis on this film would be to quote Batman Begins: "People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy." I feel it's very appropriate with '89. '89 is about theatricality, ambiance, and the surface, and kind of a surface take on the world of Batman. It reflects, it basically reflects on Batman's roots of striking fear in the hearts of the superstitious and cowardly. Batman is in this film. He's conveyed as a pulpy Zorro-like icon with the very versus a very appropriately theatrical foe to kind of combat him in a world that reflects all that as well. It kind of makes you buy that we can have these two very theatrical icons going head to head, toe to toe, and money, money, money. Who do you trust? That's what. So, I mean, at the end of the day, '89 is not a perfect film. It was the first one out of the gates. It is flawed because, and what emphasizes it is flawed in being first out of the gate, because it was so untested and experimental. It's early Tim Burton. I mean, it's barely a Burton movie because it's that early in the man's career. It's just kind of like taking a movie that the studio assigns him. It's the second movie that, well, let me rephrase that. I believe it's the third. I believe it's the third movie Burton had really done, not counting the short films.
Oh, let's see. There's Pee-wee's Big Adventure,
Beetlejuice,
and then this, right?
And again, three. Okay, I'll give you. I'll admit now. I'm saying I remember because Beetlejuice keeps falling through the cracks whenever I think it's because this was so. It feels so early Burton. I keep thinking it's the second movie he did, but that's not true. Beetlejuice feels more like a Tim Burton film, but again, this one is still in that sense of it's just.
I need to rewatch Beetlejuice, man. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
It's good. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, so the point is this is the first for a lot of things. It's kind of an experimental film in that again we're kind of doing a dark Batman, which had definitely not been done on screen. And again, it was a really fresh concept within the comics that has been kind of like redefining that character and kind of bringing that to the surface. And that's the thing. There are. Basically, any issues of the movie, I'd argue, are really outweighed at the end of the day by just simply the tone, the visuals, and the everlasting qualities of the film. So again, like today, it may not hold quite up to snuff upon true scrutiny, but it did change the game fundamentally for so many things that it's like one of those grand. It's one of those grand examples of it. Just on pedigree alone, you have to excuse a lot of it because it was the first out of the gate. You got to give it a consideration. Because it's one for the ages, and that's what '89 is, one for the ages.
Awesome, Tiki. Do you mind if I go next?
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, I had a pretty unconventional. I'm just gonna keep this nice and short, but it's a pretty unconventional introduction to the Batman '89.
My God, I also had an unconventional introduction to Batman '89.
I sense a theme going on tonight.
Anyways. So I used to live in Virginia, in Radford, And over in Blacksburg, which is very close to Radford, they had this really great restaurant. It's a chain over in that area of the country. It's called McAdoo's, and they have it's a really great restaurant, really great food. They have all these really cool movie props and autographs and things like that all over the walls and hanging from the ceiling. And so you go in, you walk inside this building, and you look up, and on one of the railings up above the cash register is this. And I'm going to share it to my panel there, so you can see that. It's the Jack Nicholson Joker.
Oh my God!
A big paper mache sculpture. It's just pointing down at who's ever walking in the door.
Oh my God!
He's missing his finger, but I think he originally had his bang gun. And so I just walk in, I'd see that, I think, what in the world is that? And so that was my first, I guess, technical introduction to at least that Joker character. It was a few years later when I saw the movie, and I thought, oh, that's where that's from. That's Jack Nicholson. Okay, I see it now. But yeah, I love the movie a lot. I'll watch it every now and again. Put it in the VHS player here and watch it while I'm working or whatever. But it's a lot of really great fun. And Dragon put it really well. You need something that I guess in that period of time you really need something that'll shake things up and change it. You know, the whole Batman formula. But whatever Dragon said, I'm screwing it up anyway.
All right, I'm gonna throw it to Jacob.
Okay, mine is going to be a lot shorter than probably all of yours. It's like I remember one of my earliest memories regarding at least this iteration was years before I even saw it. Like I remember like my dad in our old house had a huge collection of music and CDs and stuff, and he had and one of them was entirely unique. A round circular case with a bat symbol on it.
Huh.
It was the soundtrack to this movie. Like, specifically, I believe the Prince soundtrack. I mean, I could be mistaken, like, I could be misremembering the whole round case thing, but I do distinctly remember him having the soundtrack to this movie. And that was one of my earliest introductions to Batman in general. Of course, after that, it would be Batman the Animated Series, which probably can be a lot of people's. It was my friend was many years until I actually saw this. You know, to see what all the fuss was about, basically. You know what I mean? And I liked it. I mean, at the time I probably didn't think much of it. I mean, you know, it was like, no, it's just Batman versus Joker, basically. I didn't have much appreciation of movies as I did back then. As I do now, I probably didn't appreciate it as much. But as far as but looking back on it, it was actually really did enjoy it, and again, it was a way to introduce kind of a different way to introduce me to the whole Batman thing. Was like through a very oddly positioned soundtrack in the making of a movie. But as what got me technically and by proxy introduced me to Batman. So. I guess there you go.
And if I could just say one more thing, just to riff off that whole appreciation angle, I too didn't really think a whole lot of this movie when I first saw it because it's just Batman. But it wasn't until I really started digging deeper into the making of the film that's when I really started to appreciate it a lot more, because. Whenever I'm talking to someone about miniatures and model making and sets and stuff, this is always the film I turn to, because that whole Gotham City, it's all just a bunch of matte paintings and miniatures, and very little of it was actually built, which is really incredible. You can see these, if you look at photos of these guys.
I vastly prefer the look of Gotham City in this compared to okay, we're going to shoot Chicago, but we're going to shoot it in IMAX.
Yeah, exactly. This one has a very distinct style to it, and you can see. Look at photos and see these guys, working on these tiny little cars in this giant city model. It's like
these are extra tall, Sandy.
That they are.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Throwing some major shade.
The whole parade thing was all had miniatures and stuff like that. It's really cool. You guys should go look it up.
Buildings
It's a whole
are
bunch of
extra
stuff online.
tall.
But yeah, it's
No, I hear you.
really
I
cool.
hear you.
I've actually seen a few
Right.
seen something about the making of like specifically on the guy who designed the Batmobile because he's like
Anton First.
yeah, because he designed like a whole bunch of famous movie vehicles. I can't exactly remember all of them, but
I'm honestly surprised that Bob Gurr somehow didn't end up getting the job of designing this Batmobile.
You know what's funny, Tiki? I'm gonna spring it on you. There is actually kind of a big.
Oh
there's
no! Oh
not
no!
Bob Gurr. There's a big Disney connect in the making of Batman, which we get.
Okay.
other than the fact that Burton used to work for them, obviously.
Of course.
All right. So let's see. So we have weird standees of Jack Nicholson. We have kind of not really knowing exactly what this movie is per se. We have
CDs.
Yeah, we have basically the emblem of the bat
Yes.
logo. I can weave that into like my story. I can literally weave all three things into my story.
Rock us with it, man.
What?
Go on.
So my grandparents owned a novelty pet store where they also sold Halloween merchandise.
Oh boy.
Okay.
It was awesome, Sandy. You would have absolutely
Oh,
dug
yeah.
it.
I hope the story doesn't end with an alley.
Or a Donald Duck
wish it was
Donald
still
Duck
around.
pass.
I wish it was still around. It was amazing. But it's one of those things that I can kind of pride myself in. Like, yeah, my family owned the pet stop, and people in Petaluma know what we're talking about. But
Oh man, wish it was still there.
I totally wish it was still there too. But anyways, long story short, we had a bunch of memorabilia and stuff, much like this restaurant you're talking about, Sandy. And it wasn't a paper mache Jack Nicholson, but it was a cardboard cutout Jack Nicholson. And that was like kind of right over the cash register. So I definitely
Wow.
so much like you, I had a very, very similar thing of like seeing the Jack Nicholson Joker before actually knowing what it was. Also, you got to keep in mind, I'm the oldest of you guys. I was born in 1990, so I was literally born into Batmania, right? Like as a baby, I was born into that culture, and so I definitely remember. I don't just remember the CD. I vividly remember, like in early childhood, that bat symbol being everywhere. I remember people having framed posters of it in their living rooms. I remember keychains of it. I remember mugs of it. I mean, I definitely am old enough to remember when that bat symbol was kind of like the new, like, it thing to put on every product.
All the stolen bus posters.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was literally born into that time. So I definitely have that early nostalgia going for me. Now, speaking of which, I did not know what this movie was. I saw that bat symbol everywhere, and one of my neighbors had the movie on VHS, and I remember it was just super intriguing to me how the VHS tape of it just had the bat symbol.
Right? Yeah.
That really stuck with me.
I mean, it doesn't even need a title. You just show the icon, and people know what it is.
Exactly.
The power of symbols.
And so here's where the story gets funny. My parents, for some reason, didn't want me watching this movie, but they were totally cool with Batman Returns.
Which is arguably
Oh boy.
Yeah, let's put those stuffed animals down the garbage disposal. Yeah.
I mean, that movie's that's arguably more disturbing than this one.
Oh,
that's probably the most disturbing Batman movie out of all the four.
See the penguin funeral, yeah.
Okay, I am like 90% sure that the reason why my parents allowed me to watch Batman Returns is that my mom was like, well, the penguins are cute.
Well, let's see
I
the
am
penguin shoot a guy who's trying to defend babies being stolen and killed.
Oh God!
Shoot a
So,
fat
yeah,
clown,
I
have them
grew
drown
up
in
with
the
Batman
river.
Returns as opposed to '89, and I think it's kind of a universal thing that when we were growing up, I got to admit, to quote Mr. Plinkett, this one was my least favorite because it was the most boringest. But that's what I felt like as a little kid. Now I feel the exact opposite. I mean, I totally think that this movie is an excellent like case study in early Burton style and filmmaking, and I appreciate Jack's performance a lot more than I did back in the day. Back in the day, my sister and I used to have this running gag where we were like, "I'm Jack Nicholson and I'm playing the Joker. Look at me and all my range at the Joker." And basically, the gag was that Jack Nicholson was pretty much playing himself. And honestly, nowadays, it's like I look at that performance and it's like, sure, Jack Napier is kind of like a Jack Nicholson playing Jack, but pun intended, somewhat. But
A jack of
when
all
he gets
trades.
into Joker mode, I feel like it's the closest thing that we've ever had to like a big budget Cesar Romero-esque interpretation of the Joker. And that's kind of what I love about it. I like that they don't go for the we're so used to the really dark kind of psychopathic Joker, kind of like Dark Knight onwards. And it's refreshing to have a Joker that's a lot more fun loving. You know what I mean? Like this guy literally just he has a smile on his face the whole damn time and he's loving life. And I think that's a really fun contrast to the modern day. Like, I'm gonna send you use condoms as part of method acting research. Take on the Joker. And also just to throw it in, just to kind of make everything come full circle, Beetlejuice. I did not know that Beetlejuice was a movie because I watched the TV show as a kid. I watched the cartoon. And so when I saw the VHS randomly at my video store,
oh boy,
Keaton as Beetlejuice, it blew my mind.
And the same thing. I saw the cartoon before I saw the.
I've never even seen the cartoon.
Oh, the cartoon! It's fun.
And Tiki, you're kind of right. There are definitely slow points in this movie, and there's a lot of stuff children are not going to get. Joker's whole is a suicidal artist or whatever it was, and
homicidal artist.
Yeah, and that whole bit, which I'm still trying to, I'm still scratching my head about, and the thing between Bruce and Vicki Vale, it's that whole thing. There's a lot of dialogue and things that even grown-ups, I'm sure, don't understand completely.
Hey, Mom, what's adultery?
Let's not go there.
All right. So with that in mind, let's get into some background.
Obviously, there is some excellent background for this. I'm gonna try to keep it to the big points here, okay? But here we go. So, of course, be remiss without mentioning the late '80s was a very important time for Batman as a character. This is when we had the big tone shift from the '60s show, which, of course, famously, they think the old adage is that you had Beatles, Bond, and Batman. Those are the three Bs of the '60s. It was that big. That was the first case of Batmania that swept the nation. It's kind of a full circle sort of Batmania thing I'm going for here. Yeah, Batman is sweeping the nation, kind of and making Batman indelibly kind of a campy '60s property, getting far away from where he was in like 1939 in the early kind of '40s, all that sort of stuff. We're losing. Batman's just seen as just kind of like kind of the Adam West kind of '60s Batman, which now we look a lot more fondly on with great reverence to it. But at the time, everyone's take on it was pretty much like the adults were laughing at it and the kids were investing in it. And of course, then they would grow up and say, "Oh man, the '60s Batman, that was the goofy one." And of course, now it's a lot more fun. Point being, in the '70s, you had Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams just trying to kind of make Batman kind of more of a detective back like it was in the early days. And again, we're slowly making the transition, but we really make a big splash in it with '86 with Dark Knight Returns, the Frank Miller comic Dark Knight Returns, and of course we get other stories like Death in the Family where we kill Robin. Because the fans killed Robin, though. We had to call in a toll-free, well, not even a toll-free, they call in a number and kill Robin. And then, of course, Killing Joke. Those are the three big, dark stories that we had in the 80s that really were kind of getting Batman to a much darker, more adult, kind of a grittier kind of tone. So Michael Uslan, who I have had the pleasure of meeting, the closest thing I'm ever going to have in life to meeting the creator of Batman is Michael Uslan. And that's just one of the most lovely individuals. I worship the man to an extent. The man is essentially the godfather of Batman on screen. He is everything in other media, everything in regards to the movies, the animated series, the video games, all of that, thanks to Michael Uslan. Produces everything still to this day. So Michael Uslan had pretty much the experience I was talking about. As a kid, he was like a little flabbergasted by, like, no, he was a big fan of the original Batman comics, kind of more the adventures and then the kind of noir detective stuff. And we got away from that in the 60s. And in that moment, he had kind of he made a vow by candlelight practically, where he made a vow, he dedicated 20 years to get Batman taken seriously again as a kid. So this really starts, let's say roughly 10 or so, 8 to 10 years later. So he's at Indiana University, and the famous story is that there's a program there, where he can get a college, he can teach a college course for credit. And it can be any course you want, but you have to get it approved by the deans. And he wants to have the first course taught in about comics, about superheroes, comic books, all that stuff. And he tells the dean, basically that he stands before a really snooty dean. The dean says, "Look, Mr. Uslan, I appreciate what you're doing here. I loved Superman as a kid, but it's just, I won't have funny books taught at my university." And he asks him to share the tale of Moses. He talks about Moses, saving, it basically goes through the tale of Moses, and then he says, okay, now you read Superman comics as a kid. Okay, tell me the story of Superman. And basically, he put 2 and 2 together. Okay, there's mythological parallels here, and that basically it's the new modern mythology. Your course is accredited. Go nuts with it. And this caused such a stir in the community. He gets a call from Stan Lee. He gets a call from, importantly, DC. Like, everyone's really wowed by, oh my God, comics are being taken seriously as a medium thanks to this Uslan kid. He's a young guy. So DC wants to work with him. Basically, this begins Uslan's. Uslan gets Ben Melniker, who unfortunately is no longer with us. He and Melniker they buy the rights to Batman in film and in other media and everything. So they own Batman's movie rights, and this is where he basically attains the Godfather status. So 10 years, he embarks on a 10-year journey within that 20-year since a kid. 10-year journey. He goes to every studio he can to try to get a dark Batman movie made. Every studio shuts him down. I mean, every studio shuts him down. Until he gets to Peter Gruber, basically he wants to make this movie work, so they have to go to Warner Brothers. And who was at Warner Brothers at this time? Here's the Disney Connect, Tiki. Frank Wells.
Oh, okay.
Frank Wells, who was, I believe this is like kind of that early 80s, like right before Frank Wells was kind of like brought in with Eisner for
Yeah.
Frank Wells, he loved the idea, like we did Superman, let's do Batman next. Like, yeah, so he basically convinced Warner Bros. Yeah, let's go in a dark direction with Batman because they were all scared off by the 60s movie bombed so badly. They were very scared by it. So, they tried, in terms of writing, they try to go to Tom Mankiewicz, who's basically the X Factor and why the Donner Superman's so great. They go to comic writers like Steve Englehart, which is really unheard of back in the day because they were terrified. Kevin Smith can attest to this, to terrify comic writers working on the big movies. That was a big get. Then he eventually lands the Sam Hamm. Sam Hamm was a comic book fan. He was a Bat fan, and he's brought in to do the script. And essentially, he writes the script, but then they bring in a guy to rewrite Act 3, who was Warren Scarron, or Saccharin, I believe it's Scarron. So Warren Scarron, he basically rewrites Act 3, and that's, the studio brings him in to kind of touch things up because there's a writer's strike going on, which we'll get to that when we get to cons. So, they have to cut out things like Robin. Robin's cut out of the movie because they were getting a little overcrowded. They strip out like deep cuts like Rupert Thorne, of course, big in the animated series. They strip him out of things. At the time with directors, of course, based on Pee-wee's Big Adventure and a little bit of Beetlejuice, mainly for the artistic risk of it all, they go to Tim Burton because they saw what visually he's going for in those movies. They want kind of that gothic look, so they go to Tim Burton. So, in terms of the cast, and of course, the very infamous the Mr. Batman, as it goes, is Michael Keaton. At this time, he had done a movie called Clean and Sober, which basically kind of showed his dramatic chops opposed to his comedic chops, like Mr. Mom. He'd done that, and he'd done Beetlejuice.
It was basically his Brokeback Mountain.
In essence, yeah. So clean and sober, which also I believe featured Morgan Freeman, I believe. So of course a little kind of fun bat crossover in the grand sense of things. Point being, he does clean and sober, and of course Burton had worked with him on Beetlejuice, and the main reason Burton hired him was because of the eyes, just kind of the sheer. The eyes really got him the job because John Pierce went gaga for the eyes, and Tim Burton kind of saw him as like, yeah, this is a guy who I could see needs to be in a bat suit.
Dragon, those Hollywood producers in general really go gaga for the eyes in interviews. Famously, Rick McCullum in episode 2 interviews praised Hayden Christensen's eyes.
Yep, and of course John Peters, like what the Superman lives of it all too. Anyway, so Tim Burton, he had to go horseback riding to get Jack Nicholson in on the movie. Jack Nicholson, of course, like they wanted a big name. Is kind of the Superman principle. Let's get a big name to kind of help bolster the cast, get some interest in from Hollywood, et cetera, et cetera. So the only way is going to get Jack Nicholson to hear him out and like getting him in for the movie because there are a lot of names tossed around. The biggest one being Robin. Well, Robin Williams wanted the role. He sought out.
I really wanted. Oh man, I really wanted a Robin Williams Joker at some point.
Just so I can shout out.
He was definitely my pick for Christopher Nolan's Joker before Ledger happened.
Now, just so I can shout him out here, because from another famous Joker, we're also kind of gaga over. Joshua Thomas actually revealed something to me I had not known. Joshua Thomas told me that Robin Williams, and apparently it's in his book, book that Robin Williams put out, because I've seen the HBO documentary. But Robin Williams, he wrote a book that's somewhat based on. And in the book, you really realize that Robin Williams, that really hurt him at that time, because he goes for the Joker a few times. And goes for the Batman movies a couple times, and they shoot him down. That really hurt him fundamentally. That really hurt his feelings.
Are you saying him not getting the Nolan Joker?
I think I think it's all of them, but I think it was probably this first one because he was kind of at a sensitive time. I want to say it was.
And from what I understood, they also basically used him as bait to lure Nicholson in.
That I didn't hear that. That would add another interesting layer to the story there. I could buy that. Point being, there were like a lot of names that were touted out, even like I heard rumors. Well, no, Defoe was not. Sorry, I'm thinking of the rumor there. Defoe was not considered for Joker. He was considered for Batman. That was the name. I don't want to get all the names of all the other. Like Mel Gibson was considered for Batman. Bill Murray was also considered for Batman. Let's not go down that route. Point being, Eddie Murphy, Robin. Let's not go down that route. Okay.
Who are you gonna call? Exactly.
Anyway. So, point being, Nicholson's involved in the project. They give him like kind of a Robert Downey Jr. honey of a deal, where basically he gets a piece of all the '89 Joker stuff. I don't know if it's even if it was in kind of some of the older Joker stuff in perpetuity. Even I don't know how the specifics. Sorry, I don't know the specifics of that deal. But point being, he made a boatload of money based on the success of this movie, which kind of gave him a Downey Jr. like Avengers sort of deal. Anyway. So Nicholson's name brings a lot of cachet to get a lot of other stars in there. The last two big things to notice, John Peters was the producer on this movie, and as you know, John Peters is going to be a very difficult guy to work with, a very weird oddball of a guy to work with, and terrified the crap out of Tim Burton. Like he didn't. Like, it's not that Burton hated the guy. He always felt uncomfortable around John Peters. He didn't want to be on set with him. He just was really put off by him. So they shot in London, and of course there was everything was really unprecedented on the movie. Again, they were really flying by the seat of their pants in some regards. Like they knew what they were doing. It's just kind of there. It wasn't as much pressure because people didn't know exactly what to expect. The only pressure came when they announced, the trailer comes out and they announced the release date, which brings us to Batmania. So all full circle here, folks. Batmania, that trailer comes out, and they're talking like Phantom Menace levels of hype for this trailer. I mean, people just going to movies just to see the trailer. People going out of their ways just to get copies of the trailer. I mean, Batmania.
2.5 minutes.
Exactly. And it was even less. I think it was more like a 30-second teaser that they were really working with Batman, if I'm being honest. It was maybe like 50 seconds of it. It was a really short trailer, all I know. Anyway, a few like quick cryptic shots. So Batman has swept the nation just on the day of. Even they had merchandise as far as the eye can see. Again, the biggest marketing thing that we've kind of touted up at the start of this thing, the Bat insignia, the Bat logo, the Bat symbol. Of course, it was just that followed by June 23rd. Sorry, by June 19th.
Didn't Jack Nicholson also say he was gonna only do the movie if he got all of the merchandising, Joker merchandising? What's that?
The merchandise stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's what
all
I'm saying.
product.
That's kind of the down. It's a little bit of this. It's the success. He got a whole bunch of other. I think you're right about that, Sam. I think it's. He gets a piece of all things Joker from in relation to this movie. So I presume all Joker merchandise is going to him. Not getting a large percentage of it.
From what I understood, he like got merchandising rights, a part piece of the gross, top
Mhm.
billing, and basically his own shooting schedule.
Exactly. He could come and go as he pleased, and they tried. Basically, what they did is they blocked all the first. I believe they blocked like the first 3 weeks or so. Like, basically, as much they try to get all the shooting with the Joker all done simultaneously instead of making him wait around for the whole movie. At least per his wishes. Because he wanted to do his freaking Laker games. That's from what I hear. He's obsessed with the Lakers, but hey, to each his own. Anyway, point being, you have like lines as far as the eye can see. It's just this movie was everywhere, and again was like I won't say the first blockbuster. You think that on or like I can't say Jaws was the. I don't know if Jaws was the first blockbuster. It's the most famous blockbuster.
Gone with the Wind, arguably.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're probably right. I'm going with the Wind. Point being, if you want to talk,
I think Jaws was the highest grossing film ever. That made it, the biggest blockbuster.
Point being, '89 is like is one of the biggest examples of a blockbuster, kind of like since we'd had Jaws, at least since it's been a while. Anyway,
well,
so
I wouldn't say since we've had Jaws, because I mean the '80s was filled with blockbusters
and Star Wars too.
And not to mention, Star Wars came out the year after Jaws.
Yeah. Point being, it was another very huge blockbuster. I don't know what the record numbers were, but it did tremendously well, and of course left an impact to the point where Dan Tiki's seeing it still everywhere. Like the year later, I mean, I'm sure it was probably still in theaters for like for a year straight. Be my guess. Honestly,
I was born in December of 1990, and it might have still been in theaters then.
It's entirely possible. It was. Wasn't that good? Anyways, that's the whole bowl of wax. So that's all the important stuff. Anyway,
all right. So, folks, we've kind of we've paired the characters off into 4 pairings. So let's start with the big one. Let's start with Bruce Wayne and Alfred Pennyworth.
So let's talk about Keaton.
Keaton is the best Batman. I mean, he just is.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
best live action Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I don't know if I go as far as to say he's the best, but he's really good.
Well, who's the best in your?
I feel like his combination of like the eccentric Bruce Wayne, who's like trying to be the billionaire playboy, but kind of failing at it, and he's sort of weird and sort of socially awkward. Like, I love that about Keaton's Batman.
And he's not some kind of big hunky guy either. He's a normal guy.
Yeah.
They cast him more for his ability rather than his appearance.
Oh, sure.
Right.
And of course, they had the fail-safe of kind of the molded suit. Kind of did the job for him in terms of like kind of the bulky appearance. So Keaton plays Batman as basically as Bruce Wayne is somebody. Sorry, the way Keaton plays Batman specifically is he plays Bruce Wayne as someone who doesn't know if he exists anymore. That's kind of the way he plays him. He doesn't know how much of Bruce Wayne is there because again he's just really unsure of himself. And I mean, of course, one of the famous lines is, I guess we'll get there when we get there. Point being, again, Bruce Wayne's just the guy who's just he's the way he plays is he's a guy waiting for the time to be Batman, which is in many ways some of the greats play Batman. Of course, like Kevin Conroy being an example there. Of course, he's Batman, puts on the guise of Bruce Wayne. Keaton has that to an extent, but more so it's again as a guy who's really unsure of how much of Bruce Wayne is left. It's kind of the read I had on a rewatch, where obsession is the driving theme with this Batman, where again he's all about he's itching in his own skin, waiting to get into the bat suit and waiting to just kind of like do the only thing that really kind of gives his life kind of true meaning. Otherwise, he's just kind of meandering, just pretending to be this high society playboy. And again, Tiki did highlight the quality there, where again that is a distinction that he has over a lot of other Batmen, where again he is playing kind of a playboy who's really uncomfortable being a playboy, visually uncomfortable. But again, we can make the argument again if he's visually that uncomfortable being a playboy, he kind of telegraphs that there's something off with this guy. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Point being, so I love how we introduced Batman in this movie. By the way, I love how we, without getting the specifics just broadly, I love how we introduce Batman as a mystery that unfolds, kind of per act almost. And I really thought that was fascinating on a rewatch, where we're kind of embodying Detective 27. I know it's not a straightforward adaptation, of course, but I love that it's, Detective 27. We saw Batman at the very end of the issue. We revealed that, Bruce Wayne, this character we saw at the beginning, oh my God, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Oh my God. And that was, that's a big moment. And we're kind of like, we're introducing him as this urban legend crusader figure who we then kind of slowly, who we then kind of, after a certain scene or so, we reveal, oh my God, Bruce Wayne is that guy. Yeah. I guess the, kind of his imperative in the movie is he's questioning, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, guys. I mean, correct me if this just sounds like crazy talk here. I kind of read it as, I think he's questioning, can I make a life as Bruce Wayne again with Vicki Vale? Like, is there any way I can kind of try to live the life I'm pretending
it's
to
kind
have?
of like a less captivating Mask of the Phantasm situation without the backstory.
To an extent, yeah. It's kind of a bare bones
sort of like,
phantasm. Yeah.
it's sort of like, yeah, can I have it? And of course, Alfred, we'll get into that, but Alfred's very much, leaning into like the whole idea of like Bruce Wayne escaping from being Batman.
I mean, the main delineation I could see from Phantasm for what we have here would be that Bruce, again, it's a question of how much of Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne, obviously, I don't mean just like a little broken record here, because again, we've had this in a few movies where, like Bruce Wayne is the mask, but what's more accurately, he's not sure if Bruce Wayne is a mask. It's a question of is there any way I can revive Bruce Wayne with, by having a life again, or am I just going to succumb to my obsession? I think the answer by the end of the movie really lies in between, because he's still at it. Because this movie has something above many other Batman movies. I don't say that in the best of ways, but I say it in the sense of looking at the movie as what we have it as. The thing that this movie does, no other Batman movie does, is that he does get closure. We've never seen him cinematically. Well, let me rephrase that, I guess. So I'm now thinking of Batman Begins, the whole Joe Chill thing. I can't quite say that. Point being,
also the entire end of The Dark Knight Rises.
Well, what I mean is he doesn't get closure specifically with the murder of his parents, because Batman solving a mystery here. He's unraveling the mystery of his origins, and he kind of has confirmation of this, and he's basically he gets closure. He seems to get closure by the end of this movie, and even after that, he's unable to stop, but he's unable to stop. He tries to kind of leave the door open for it, though. I have Vicky. I'm kind of balancing, having a girlfriend with Vicki Vale, just kind of trying to have a life, but again, I'm still going to be devoted to this other thing, which I've kind of doubled down on by the end of the movie. There was a small bit in the movie that really jumped out to me, and I could be reading way too much into this bit, but there was the bit where he has this line. It's a really little fleeting line where Vicki Vale is asking about the bats. And he has a bat in a cage, and says the bats, they're excellent survivors. And I think that communicates probably an obvious thing with Batman. I think it communicates that Bruce Wayne is a character, especially in this movie, who's driven by survivor's guilt. We don't see Bruce Wayne fall down the cave. Obviously, we kind of see that in Forever, but we don't know why. We don't 100% know why it takes the guise of a bat. If you're just going to this completely clean, and if you look at it that way, survivor's guilt, is kind of melding, the imperative of bat to kind of what his whole shtick is about, or he's just trying to kind of justify the fact that he was spared, because again he could have been killed when we show the origin. He could have been, but he wasn't. And it's a question of again, Bruce Wayne is kind of half in the door, half out the door, because he doesn't know if he wants to live, and it's just kind of this ghost of Bruce Wayne through the guise of a bat, driven by these nightly patrols. It's all he lives for, as we can see by kind of Michael Keaton just kind of just itching out of the skin, oh God, I want to put on a suit so badly right now.
Right. All right. Anything else to say about Bruce, or should we get into Alfred?
Oh, Alfred. He stuck around through the entire 4 movies, right?
Yes.
Yep. Good old Alfred Gough.
Him and Pat Hingle.
It's the great Michael Gough.
Alfred Gough.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem.
So Gough was always, again, he and I, we kind of hit upon this realization. I don't know if Tiki agrees with me on this at all, but I love that. We've always noticed there's always been a string of excellent Alfreds. There's never been a bad Alfred.
There's never been a bad Alfred. This is fact.
That is fact, and I raised the question. I wonder if that's because Alfred's just that strong of a character.
Hell, I will wager to say that Michael Gough does some of his best acting in Batman and Robin.
I'd say that
he is a strong character. He really is a strong character. You're right.
I'd say you're absolutely right about that. He was phenomenal acting in that movie, though. But no, seriously though, I mean, again, it's like, the fact that Alfred is just kind of like that, such a strong, enduring character. It's really hard to get him wrong, even no matter what actor takes the role. And I'm not trying to undermine Gough here, but I think it's kind of a little bit.
I mean, I would say Jeremy Irons by default is the worst Alfred, just because he's had like the least development.
But he's great though.
He is.
That's the thing. I mean, again, it's like
he's only in one movie though, isn't he?
Well, no, he's in two
technically.
Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah, like Superman, Batman versus Superman, and Justice League.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Gough here, he plays.
Even then, those are basically cameos at best.
I mean, he's in
That's
there.
what I'm saying. So I'm saying like he was good, but he's probably like bottom tier.
Well, it's not like we give him a show or anything. That'd be crazy.
Wait, they're giving Jeremy Irons?
No, why would I? Alfred. It's not like they give Alfred a show.
Yeah, I know they're giving Alfred a show. I know that.
I forget. I can see the flies coming off that one anyway. So let's talk about Alfred here. So
Alfred the movie.
Gough here. He plays the dutiful butler. He's very he's a very respectable servant. He's very. I love that he's like the big remaining tie for Bruce Wayne in this movie, because we have that really wonderful intimate scene on the date between Bruce Wayne and Vicki Vale, where it's a really quiet scene. They try having dinner at the big, long, ridiculously elongated table. I guess even credence to your earlier point, Tiki, you could say that again. It's Bruce Wayne again pretending to be something that he's not, trying to enjoy, like having a dinner at that ridiculously long table. And of course, this goes to something a little bit more intimate, a little bit more akin to true blue Bruce Wayne. That of course you can see is absolutely something Bruce Wayne would do, because we have with Alfred, there's kind of regaling with kind of stories of his youth. So it's big tie of family, that Alfred.
Now, of course, Alfred. I feel like this is a tricky thing. I feel like his attachment to Vicki Vale is a little bit of a two-way street in this movie. I want to save the whole letting her into the Batcave thing for cons, because that's a whole talking point in cons.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I do like that Alfred sees Vicki Vale as sort of like an escape for Bruce. You know what I mean?
Which is what Bruce needs.
In better terminology, kind of like he sees Vicki as like Bruce's savior almost.
Yeah. And also, I noticed this. I love how Alfred's he's so on top of the parties too. Because again, this is the thing I've seen with Alfred in animation. But I kind of forgot that. Oh my god, like Gough is so on point with this, where we have Alfred like during the party scene, like Alfred's going around, he's so on top of things. So every time Bruce is like putting the pen somewhere, he's like grabbing the pen, he's just putting a drink down, just kind of very distractedly. He's getting the glass, like he's on top of it.
Yeah.
Alfred Gough, now you got me. Darn it, Jacob. Michael Gough, he's not exactly a spring chicken, but he's moving so quick during that party scene, man.
It's just really kind of interesting to see that. I mean, Burton cast him because he was a fan, because he himself was a fan of the Hammer movies that Gough was in. So that's why he wanted to. He's actually casted quite a bit of Hammer actors in his movies. That just became I don't know if it started with this movie, but it was
of course.
Yep, it definitely became a trend. To see him stick around these movies even after Burton pretty much left or was demoted or fired, or however the story goes, is definitely some dedication to the character.
Yep.
And he obviously did a great job, and arguably he's like Bruce's center and a major centerpiece in the movie. So Batman isn't Batman without Alfred.
I would argue that Alfred never challenges Batman, but he serves Bruce Wayne over Batman when it counts, and I think that relates to the moment when we get to it later on. I think that's kind of the big imperative of Alfred. Like he's in service of Bruce Wayne before he's in service of Batman.
Oh yeah, like Batman is kind of like an extension of what he needs to do to serve Bruce Wayne, but it's kind of just like he almost kind of views it as a crutch. You know what I mean? It's like
Bruce sees himself as Batman before Bruce Wayne, but it's the other way around for Alfred.
right.
He sees the child, basically the child he's been raising since forever.
Batman forever.
Yeah, maybe not the best choice of words, but I get you. I hear you. I get your point.
For a very long time.
There you go.
Batman for a very long time.
All right. I guess we should. Okay, speaking of Vicki Vale, let's talk about her.
Yeah, let's go into Vicki, and then of course by extension we have Knox as well.
Yeah. So Kim Basinger. So she's the thing I remark about Vicki Vale in this movie is that she's kind of our eyes into the story, and this kind of complements the Batman point I was making earlier, where again we kind of see Batman as kind of a mystery that's unfolding before our eyes, and our in for this story is really Vicki Vale, who she's how we get to know Batman, and really in all the scenes where we kind of see Batman, of course, usually he's kind of swooping in to either save her or again she's either the kind of the apple of the Joker's eyes. The point being, she's our in for for most of our narrative here.
Mm-hmm. Of course, she does kind of play the role of the new kid in town as well.
Yes, and again, for us, the audience is coming into it for the first time and kind of complimenting the journey. They're kind of getting us to Knox as kind of Mr. Exposition for the most part. He's a fun Mr. Exposition, but he's a Mr.
He's a fun Mr. Exposition. There's not much to say about him, but
the main thing that Knox conveys, he establishes the urban legend status of Batman at this point. That's the main thing that Knox really conveys.
Sure.
Conveys Batman as like this kind of like folk hero in a way.
Yeah. Of course, with Vicki, so in the comics, Vicki is sort of she's kind of a Lois Lane knockoff, and basically the idea is like her main focus is like her main role in the early Batman comics was she would hound Bruce Wayne at the social events, and maybe she like flirt with Bruce Wayne a little bit. It's rarely I'm not saying she never crossed
a date with Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, so and of course, like famously, this is actually kind of a little thing. Bob Kane. I don't want to bring up Bob Kane too much because obviously, in later years, we now know a little bit more of like how things were done between Bob Kane. But the point being, Bob Kane, when originally Vicki Vale was created, that one Bob Kane does have fingerprints on specifically because he modeled her after Marilyn Monroe because he really is boastful that I believe he dated Marilyn Monroe for a brief time.
Oh God!
And the fact of the matter is, like in the comics, he modeled Vicki Vale off her, but he wanted Vicki Vale to have blonde hair like Marilyn Monroe, and it was a color error, so her hair was colored red. And of course, I want to say because they were really touting off Kane as consultant on this movie. I presume that's why. Maybe I don't know if he had any impact on casting or whatnot, but you get someone blonde for it. I don't know. Righting an age-old wrong in his book, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I feel like the big flaw with Vicki in this movie, the reason why people don't necessarily look kindly on her nowadays, is that, man, she is clingy when it comes to the romance department.
Being clunky or clingy?
Clingy. I mean clingy.
Oh. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. It's clingy. So the thing that bothers me about
much like Kirsten Dunst, her scream in this is just ear-piercingly annoying.
Many people have compared her to Kate Capshaw, which I don't know if that's the.
Nothing's as bad as Kate Capshaw.
That's the thing. It's not as bad, but maybe
it's Kate Capshaw, and then also I don't care if it's a classic. Fay Ray in King Kong is terrible.
Well, that's more famous though.
I don't care if it's famous. It's terrible.
Anyway, point being, so the thing that really here's the problem with all of that is that she's supposed to be this one. I don't know if, how do you guys feel about the photography? I'm not saying it's a problem. Just asking, the fact.
I don't mind it.
Anyway, so
I feel like it was kind of it was a trick that was used in the 90s to get characters into certain situations. Like, oh, of course she needs to be in this situation because she needs to take a photo of it.
I mean, we've seen recent examples of that. I mean, heck, that was kind of in Detective Pikachu in a way too.
True.
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. That's more reporter, though. I'd say like she's a reporter in the comics, and they made her a photographer, basically, so she could have like a. I argue they made her a photographer so they could have like an artsy thing that would correlate to the Joker's thing. That's what I believe they did it for. Because otherwise, basically, if she was a reporter, then why would Knox be there? I guess. Like, why would there need to be two reporters in the story, and they wanted like someone to complement the reporter, which would be a photographer? I guess that was the logic. Like a Jimmy Olsen to his Lois Lane, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so okay, here's the problem though. So again, like you kind of scream queen as she is, like this is a woman who's been the Corto Maltese. She's like photographed like bodies killed in war. She's and she's just screaming at every opportunity, even like Batman's just kind of saving her now and again. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, they build up the strong, independent woman thing at the beginning, but they really have no follow through to that.
Yep. And speaking of
kidnapped, like 3 different times in this movie?
Let's see, she gets kidnapped kind of. Basically, she's accosted 3 times. I can't say kidnapped. She's technically kidnapped once, but she's kind of like held hostage.
Okay, let me rephrase that. How many times does Batman have to save her?
Well, if you count, out of the costume, 3, yeah.
3, yeah.
Anyway, so speaking of kind of like Vicki Vale and being rescued by Batman, I wanted to bring up too that I found her on a rewatch to be she's the in between the 2 obsessive characters, and that she wants into the obsession that Bruce Wayne has, and she is a target of the Joker's in terms of like she is his obsession. So again, she's kind of like in between the of our 2
which, by the way, I don't necessarily think plays that well with the Joker. We'll get into that.
And you're not wrong. We'll get. You're not wrong. We'll get to it when we get to it. Anyway, so real quick, let's talk about some of our law and order within all of this here with Gordon and Gordon. Maybe very briefly.
Thank God you're here, Batman.
So Pat Hingle is a good actor, but
I'll always remember Pat Hingle for more than Gordon as being the narrator of The Land Before Time.
Remembering him as the general from Muppets from Space.
Oh yeah,
yes, that's right.
Well, if I'm honest, okay, well, I'll be going to this before I go to that because this one's more infamous. But yeah, it's in terms of good Pat Hingle, it's like it was pretty fun in it.
I mean, look, I would describe Pat Hingle's Gordon in this movie is borderline serviceable.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So here's the thing. So Pat Hingle, comparatively to the other pre-Nolan Gordons, I mean, this is giving him the most substance, as shocking as that may be. This is like the most substance they give him in those 4 movies.
I distinctly remember when I was like getting into Batman, fandom. I was like, what is the big deal with this Gordon guy? He was so forgettable in the movies. Why are people talking him up so much?
And that's the thing. So it's like Gordon, of course, it's like copy of a copy with this. We're starting with just like a bare minimum of substance here. And again, Gordon, as I've emphasized so many times, Tiki, my love of this character is you don't need to do a lot with Gordon. You really don't. Yeah. Just give him a rooftop scene, give him like an encounter, have some merit. You don't need to do a whole lot, but you need to get it right. And again, it's not even that. Again, even the '60s show, it picks up the phone. He's a man of duty. That does the job. That does the trick.
Right.
Point being, and again, here's a Pat Hingle. You have a decent actor. Again, Pat Hingle could have been really good as Gordon if they gave him screen time. If they gave him actual stuff to work with. Wouldn't necessarily been my go-to, but he's not a bad choice. Because he's got some credentials to him. Point being, so each movie, it's like degrading. It's just kind of degrading the performance and sanding it down further and further. Where Returns, he has actually a Batman Gordon scene with Batman, but then we just kind of write him out of the movie. It's like kind of a half and half. Batman barely pays attention to him. And then Forever is a joke where he's just showing up in his pajamas at the precinct. And then the worst is Batman and Robin.
Oh God.
It's like, I'm not too old. It's like, come on, man, show some respect. Anyway, I don't want to fall down.
I don't mind Gordon in this movie. I really don't.
That's what I'm saying. Comparatively,
I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah,
definitely no Gary Oldman.
Here's what I respect about Hingle specifically. The reason Hingle signed on for the movie is really admirable, actually. What got him on the movie, and here's the thing, they cut all of Gordon's scenes in the movie, technically. They cut the important scene with Gordon in the movie. where he was sold on, very famously, Gordon was in many interpretations of the origin. He was the first cop on the scene of the Wayne murder. Like Bruce Wayne, like there are photos of like Bruce Wayne clinging to like the leg of the cop at the scene there, and basically it was gonna make a little visual thing that was gonna be okay. You see why Batman had saved why Batman like Bruce Wayne hung around Gordon, why he invited him to like the charity event, why he. Also, if you notice, the thing we do have in this movie, I kind of call it a rewatch. I know it's kind of there, but you kind of pay a little bit more attention to, is that Batman does save Gordon twice in this movie at the very start, and that during that, Gordon's almost killed by Jack Napier, and then Bob the Goon holds a gun on him. So Batman, again, he kind of saves Gordon's bacon twice in the movie. I got to give the movie that. I mean, we don't have any of that in the other ones. So that's the thing. There is an attempt there, and he's the guy who seems to be kind of coalescing with having his priorities where he's not going out to don't hunt the Batman, hunt the guy with the gun first, then hunt the Batman. So I mean, at least they're getting it. It's like kind of a light rendering, but it's there, it's enough. It's bare minimum, but it's like, well, at least it's. The Eckhart thing makes things complicated. We'll get into that with cons, but
what's his
Spark Notes on Gordon?
Was Eckhart in the comics or TV show?
Eckhart, no, Eckhart was
Aaron Eckhart. I love that coincidence.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, no, here's the thing. Eckhart. Some people would say he's based on Bullock, but I mean Bullock was never that dirty, though. That's the thing. It's kind of basically there's two characters. There's Flass and there's Bullock. Flass is Jim Gordon's corrupt partner, which this guy's not his partner, but he's really corrupt. So I mean, it's kind of based on just corruption within the police force, and maybe the Flass character, which you see in Batman Begins a little bit more similarly to this guy. So. Anyway, so off the Eckhart thing. So real briefly, Harvey Dent's in this movie, folks.
Yeah, Billy Dee.
Good casting.
Okay, I realized in this movie that I have a parameter for how satisfied I'm going to be with Lando in Episode 9.
Okay.
It's going to be over under if he has more screen time than he does in this movie. Because this movie is not enough Billy Dee Williams.
Yet, oddly enough, more of an active role than Commissioner Gordon, I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
And every time we check in with him, it's like, I'm gonna get him. The mayor's saying, stop the bad guys. He's actually working on it. He's putting in the phone calls and everything. Yet, of course.
It really makes me sad that we never saw him as Two-Face. I would have loved to.
And he signed on purely for the promise of being Two-Face, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He wanted to play Two-Face, and of course, he saw the rich arc of Harvey Dent and everything, and just, Tommy Lee Jones. Right.
I mean, that is I don't throw this around very often, but that is totally a case of Hollywood whitewashing right there.
Yeah. Much like the Robin Williams thing, at least. Oh boy, yeah, it's.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, they kept Alfred. They kept Alfred and they kept Gordon from those movies. Why couldn't they keep Harvey Dent from those movies?
Yeah.
Joel Schumacher, I'll tell you.
All right, so let's move on to the big, let's talk about the Joker.
Well, do you want to talk Bob first and then build to the Joker?
Okay, I guess. So we have Bob the Goon. So Bob the Goon is played by Tracy Walters, who basically the idea thing, and it's unclear how he's. I've heard the way Jack Nicholson tells the story, but I don't know exactly because, of course, as we know, Nicholson, he kind of said a lot of. Nicholson got the most out of this deal of anyone for this movie, obviously.
Oh yeah,
it's a question of how much.
Go ahead. Sorry.
There's a question of how much cachet did Nicholson throw around to make this happen? Because the idea is that the way he tells it, they asked him if he wanted to, if there's anyone he wanted to put in the movie as potentially a henchman, a smaller role within kind of the mob stuff with Jack Napier, and he threw in his friend Tracy Walters, and Nicholson vouches this guy, even if he famously said I wouldn't even put my own mother in a movie if she couldn't do it. I mean, Tracy Walters, and bear in mind, Nicholson has a really tumultuous relationship with his mother, too. So that's not the best. I mean, that's not the best thing, either.
Yeah, I actually heard about the story with his mother.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he has kind of a George Reeves thing with his mother, where basically there's I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. It's just the idea is there's some issues with him, with Jack Nicholson's history. Yeah, it was kind of actually common. I'm sorry, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm avoiding that. Anyway, it was Tracy Walters. So Tracy Walters plays Bob the Goon, and he was many. By the way, fun fact: he was one of the inspirations for Silent Bob. I can't remember who the other inspiration was, but he was the reason
That's
Silent.
funny because a lot of people of Kevin Smith's era love Bob the Goon.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Doug Walker loves Bob the Goon. I know that the Angry Video Game Nerd loves Bob the Goon.
So what?
Yeah.
So why did Jack Nicholson recommend him? Was he a friend or what?
Yeah, he was a friend who had acting talent, and he thought he would be really good in the role, so he vouched for him. And he put assuming basically he says that they asked him if they wanted to put anyone there. It's either a question of did he force him, you guys put him in this movie, or I'm not doing it. It's as one of the conditions.
Wow.
Some people say it's a condition. Some people say they asked him. That's why it's a little up in the air.
So why does everyone love Bob the Goon so much? I mean, he's just a goon.
I love a good henchman personally.
Dragon has the thing with henchmen, and I also do as well. If
Bill Zine
really well developed, then I just and they give Bob the Goon such a it could be such a thankless role, but they give him such personality that he really just shines every time he's on screen.
Bob has
in love with Bob the Goon the way some people are, but I definitely
go into this a little bit deeper because every time I've seen him on the screen, he's just kind of standing there, not saying anything.
With such determination, he admires what the Joker's doing. He does.
That's what I'm saying. He's like the ultimate Joker fanboy. It's like he's got this kind of love story arc with the Joker happening in the background.
And we know this. He's one of the Wayne. I mean, it's not they don't state it out 100%, but I think it's pretty obvious. He's the other murderer during the Wayne murders. He's the other guy. He's the fact that their friendship goes back that far. He knew him as Jack Napier, and he knew him as the Joker, and he still respects and admires and loves the guy. Of course, he's threatening Eckhart when Eckhart's pulling a gun on him. He's right behind him pulling a gun on Eckhart. I mean, he's his backup. He's there, and again, I love that he's kind of killed on a whim, but he accepts his fate gladly. Hand me a gun. That's not a good sign. And he takes it, man. Of course, and the very eerie, wonderful thing is that the Joker, again, this basically the odd thing is, this is kind of bizarre. He was kind of the Harley Quinn of his day, to an extent.
Yeah,
to an extent. And you got to remember, this is way before Harley Quinn was even great. So the idea is just having the Joker. He did have a henchman before Harley Quinn way back in the day. And the idea is you had a couple. The point being, you had you have this moment where he says, "We need a minute or two alone, boys." And that's the closest semblance of the Joker kind of having feelings for somebody,
And even with Harley, it's debatable sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but that's what I'm in the movie. So. All right. Okay, so let's talk about Joker himself.
Yeah, like I said, I really admire Jack's performance in retrospect. I'm not going to say it's better than Heath Ledger's or anything, but I do think it's an entirely different take from any Ledger performance onwards, and I think it's really refreshing for that reason.
Yeah, so Nicholson, of course, it's a legendary performance, and it's kind of legendary as well in the sense of they're really lucky that Jack Nicholson was very Joker-like in his everyday life. That they were really lucky with that. And yeah, well, honestly, it's not. I shouldn't be lucky because I sought him out for that reason. But again, there's kind of this odd pattern in actors who play the Joker. Again, I'm not trying to play into any curses or anything like that, but it's kind of this odd pattern where actors either have influenced the Joker in fundamental ways, or again, the point being there's something personal that goes. The role is kind of, it's a role that's so important it kind of takes something from the actor, and that Nicholson pretty much was the Joker, so they kind of went to him.
For Jared Leto, it took his semen.
We don't know if it doesn't.
Let's just not go down that road.
The point being, Leto was trying to.
I don't want to know where he got it if it wasn't his.
Let's just not even go down that road.
Okay, the point I'm trying to make here is, so you have Nicholson, who's again, he basically the role was him. You have Heath Ledger. Again, I'm not playing any of those ridiculous. It's been denied and everything. Obviously, is one basically the fact that he found a way to really kind of he put all of his acting chops into the role to the point where people would speculate about how much of the role consumed him or not. So we'll just go that far with it. And then you have Jared Leto, who in the sense of he tried too hard to do it, and that kind of tainted his reputation to an extent where again he put a little too much into the role, trying to emulate what had been done before, trying to go uber method next level, buying into the mythology of
I gotta say, in the midst of the Me Too movement, Jared Leto was lucky that shit didn't go down a year or two later.
Anyway. So here's the thing. I think what Nicholson does. So I think the reason Nicholson was perfect for the role here is that he captures the thing that all the best Jokers have in common. I mean, all the best Jokers, Mark Hamill especially. The thing that all the Joker, when done perfectly, you capture the unpredictability of the Joker. Nicholson captured that very flawlessly with a real natural ease. Again, kind of channeling a little bit of himself in there, but also just again, you gotta remember what Nicholson's doing so well as the Joker versus just Jack Napier is that as the Joker, he's unencumbered. He just has like a kind of a new lease on life. And you got to remember, Nicholson's pretty much kind of commanding what he does. There's no risk for him at all in this movie. He's just having fun with it, and that's pretty much it's kind of feeding into the performance there. It's a guy unencumbered by rules and logic and everything. It's just kind of doing things on a whim because he can, and like they're he's trying things out. It reads.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in terms of like where we start with him as the whole, because of course we give the Joker an origin here, which I mean, now we're doing a whole Joker origin movie nowadays. But the point being,
the thing is, like, I don't mind it. Like as a kid, I really minded it because I felt like it really kind of just got in the way of getting to the Joker. Nowadays, I think it's kind of interesting that he was already sort of a lunatic to begin with. I don't think it adds that much substance, though. I really don't.
Here's what we do get from it, though. I think you're right. Now, at the end of the day, we don't quite need it, but we need it if we're going to do the Bruce Wayne reel. That's why we have it in this.
Right, exactly.
So Napier is basically the Napier origin that we see is the origin of a cruel Gunsel, which I've seen like the Gunsel origin within the Batman animated series with with Mask of the Phantasm. That was when I saw kind of what they did with here before I even saw this. So you have like kind of a cruel Gunsel for Carl Grissom's mob. By the way, Jack Palance. They got Jack freaking Palance, man. Anyway, so they're so the point is on a rewatch again because as a kid I think we're all kind of sympathetic that you're really just waiting for them to put on the makeup. You're just kind of waiting for them to take the chemical bath. Otherwise, it's just like again like what's adultery, mommy? Like why is this man trying to set up this other man? You don't really care. All you know is he shoots the other guy and reveals him. That's all you really know about it. But what we do have though is that the actual substance that they're going for on a rewatch and really paying attention to is that he's not taken seriously because the idea is he works for Carl Grissom and he wants to be taken seriously, but he's not. He's just like the sick, depraved lunatic who does the dirty work for Carl Grissom, and even Eckhart calls him out. It's like, yeah, I'm the dirty cop, and I even know that you're never going to take over anything because you're the sicko, you're the sicko murderer from the mob. Mm-hmm. And as a boss, and I guess thematically here, as a boss, he'd be a joke. Get it?
Oh.
There's actually this little thing. There's this little bit here, and I could be reading into this because this feels like something they would have cut. But he has this lucky deck of playing cards, and of course he holds the Joker card, a very memorable shot. And you'll notice there's a little hole in the card. Now it could be the regular casino thing, where a lot of times casinos will do something to the deck if you just want to use like a hole in the deck. Right. So that's probably what it is. But I did have a thought though. I had a thought. Why call it his lucky deck of playing cards? I like to think that maybe that stopped the bullet. When they put it in his pocket or something, maybe that kind of like helped stop a bullet that was kind of aimed for. Maybe that's why it's his lucky card. Maybe that's why there's a hole in it.
I don't know how a playing card would stop a bullet, but
I'm saying maybe it had like a flask.
Yeah, dragon.
I'm saying maybe it had like a flask or something harder behind that. But I'm saying the playing
card
helps.
Right. Yeah.
Well, as I'm saying it now, I kind of realize that, it's the Vegas thing. It's probably just the whole playing card. Honestly, take that point with a grain of salt. That's probably non-so. Anyway. However, the point being, like we do all this to make him kind of an irredeemable Joe Chill for later. That's why we make him such a cruel guy in the starting place. And the thing I read about the joke, the thing I read on a rewatch with the Joker and how that all this kind of pays off, and you can tell me if I'm crazy here, is that I think when he comes back as the Joker, he views his old self is dead. Because like the first line, one of the first lines that he has is that Jack is dead. Call me Joker. Mm-hmm. He has that moment. I think that's pretty much what drives his actions in the movie. If you really look at it, that he's trying to bury the old grudges. He's trying to kind of kill the past, as it were. He's reborn as this new crazy with this new crazy lease on life, filled with all the randomness of kind of his old life.
It's basically a midlife crisis.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's basically he's kind of this ramness applied to who he was, but now he's just channeling the element. Because again, we knew he had like degrees in chemistry and engineering and art. So again, he's basically bringing the stuff that he knew made him special. He's trying to make himself into a boss. He's trying to channel what he wanted in life through this new thing that he can get away with it now. He's obsessed with making a name, making a mark, which is what Jack Napier was, but he's just doing it in a really crazy way now. And I feel all the major deaths in the movie, he kills Carl Grissom, who was his boss, he kills Eckhart, he kills his boss, he kills Bob the Goon, who knew him the longest out of anyone. He tries to kill Bruce Wayne, who brings up his old life. He's trying to, so he can fully embrace like this new mark that he's making as the Joker. He's killing all semblance of Jack Napier. I mean, I don't see there's anything really kind of just saying that can't be the case, but
So in other words, Dragon, what you're saying is, let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
Sure. But I mean, am I crazy with that? Does it make any sense?
No, it does.
It does make
For sure. He's reinventing himself. Absolutely.
I love that we fuel the Batman Joker dynamic with he's again with the obsession. He has an obsession with Batman because Batman is stealing his press, but also again is the last living tie to his old life that he hasn't killed yet. The guy who made him the man he is today. It's the last guy he has to kind of quote unquote thank for him being who he is. It's kind of the most poetic death, kind of saved for last as well. So in regards to Vicki Vale with the Joker, unless you want to save it for cons.
Sure.
It's Vicki Vale as she's kind of this random.
Let's save it for cons.
Oh, sure. Sorry about that.
Dragon,
Okay.
Let's save it for cons.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so trying to see if there's anything else.
Okay, so moving on, let's get to pros and cons.
All right.
All right.
You guys can hear me okay, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, just checking.
I just think it's funny. You want to save Vicki Vale for pros and cons, but then, all right, let's get to pros and cons.
Pros and cons.
Let's talk about it anyways.
Well, I'm saying we'll go through pros first and then get to cons.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, so pros, I think Sandy hit it right out of the he knocked it out of the ballpark with his thesis here. Like I just think from a technical point of view, it's a masterclass. It's one of Burton's best made movies. Just the cinematography, the models, the matte paintings, the music, it looks amazing. It looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And the Prince soundtrack, you'd think that wouldn't work, but it does because they
It
only
totally
use
does,
it for.
Man. It totally does. I don't care. I don't care if it's out of place. It works for this movie.
No, it works for Joker, and they only use it for Joker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the ambiance, the Anton First design, just the general aesthetic. It all is very, very fitting. A little bit again, the Gothic scale to again. It makes Gotham unlike New York City when they do touches like this.
It makes Gotham unlike anything else in the world. Which makes it work.
I mean, look at the sets in the. Of course, we have the Batmobile, we have the Batwing, we have Axis Chemicals Museum, the Cathedral. All these sets, they all look really.
And you can see where the animated series took their inspiration from as well.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, obviously they drew inspiration from like the classic Fleischer Superman cartoons, but
of course. But again, that's the point I was making in my thesis, where again the animated series doesn't exist without this. 89 opened the door for the animated series to be dark and kind of like be able to kind of reflect that Batman. But again, we don't have any of that or that aesthetic, or again, obviously the opening, the theme, the whole shebang. We don't have a lot of that without the Burton films.
Like, and speaking of which, Elfman's score definitely elevates this movie. Like,
oh yeah,
it takes things that could be ordinarily mundane and elevates it to an advanced degree.
And you got some Shirley Walker fingerprints with her. With her conducting a lot of the stuff that Elfman wrote. That's cool.
Oh, really? She conducted?
Yeah, I see the video, I think. Yeah.
I mean, Elfman declined to do the series, but he did the theme. But he actually suggested that Shirley Walker work on the series. Like he suggested her to them.
Yeah, nice.
Because again, she here's the thing: Bruce Timm, from what I hear, the way he recounts the stories, that he was watching the making of the 89 Batman, one of the making of specials, and he saw that she was actually conducting the orchestra.
All right. So Dragon, you mentioned earlier that the film has a really good act structure to it. And I will note that you don't see the Batmobile until about an hour in, and I think that really speaks to what you were talking about. Like, this film has a patience to it. It doesn't reveal all of the Batman iconography all at once. You know what I mean? It kind of slowly rolls it out.
Yeah. And again, it's somewhat parallels again, like kind of the early years of Batman within his introduction, without being like a straightforward, like again, it's kind of honoring the material, and again, it's where Burton's walking the line between adaptation and again something that's redefining. Because again, I'm at the really again, they're like let me put it this way, I love all the little details in the movie. We're mentioning Corto Maltese, which is from The Dark Knight Returns. We have like Bruce Wayne, his name tag is during that opening press conference on TV. But he's not there. It's like you have Gordon, you have Harvey Dent, everyone's there but Bruce Wayne. It's like an empty name tag.
Mm-hmm.
Like those little details, they go a long way. And again, like how we just kind of like he's again, I emphasize the theatrical thing because again, he's like if we're building to the big movie theater reveal the origin, if we're building that, because the Monarch, if you really look, the Monarch Theater is highlighted a whole bunch of times in the movie. We focus on the Monarch Theater in building to that reveal and building to that origin. So as I mentioned, I love the Batman Joker kind of paralleled obsession. The thing I want to get into with the Joker is just broadly. I love that we discover once we discover the link to Batman, the rematch of two obsessed men. We put once Batman's fully in the know, we have a rematch with two obsessed men on equal footing until ultimately the Joker loses. In a literal sense, he loses his footing because he can't let go of the past, which would be again he can't let go of this grudge with Batman, which is what kind of dooms him. And of course, Batman, again, he's trying to let go of the past by kind of confronting the Joker. It's kind of
Speaking of which, this kind of takes inspiration from the Red Hood storyline.
Yeah. It's getting in multiple sense. It really works. So again, the parallels of Obsession I thought were really strong, especially on a rewatch. Let's see. The quotability. Quotability is a huge thing this movie has.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, my God.
Debatably the most quotable Batman movie.
Oh, I don't even think it's a debate. I think it's kind of like the Spider-Man 2 line. I feel like, I feel like almost every line in this movie is somewhat iconic.
I'm Batman.
Obviously. Tell your friends about me.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Come on! Yep. Let's see. Ending on the bat signal, which is kind of a tradition that the Batman movies really took up for a while there. I mean, pretty much all of them. I mean, all of them to some extent, they end on the bat signal. Because I'm thinking about all four of these movies. Batman Begins in a big way, which, by the way, they reveal like a Funko Pop they're doing for the 80th anniversary. It's going to be the ending of Batman Begins. I was like drooling over, like, oh my God, yes, it's Gordon with the playing card, the bat signal, and Batman on the roof. It's literally the whole ending constructed. Oh God, it looks great.
Wait, where is this? Where is it? It's a Funko thing you said?
Yeah, it's a Funko Pop. See, they actually have one for '89, Sandy. You should check it because it's basically Batman punching the Joker with the glasses. They have that as a Funko Pop already.
I see it. Oh, that's great.
And they're going to come out with one in September with Gordon at the end of Batman Begins, which is the one I'm going to be jumping all over. That's the one. Oh, goodness. Anyway, I'm frothing at the mouth here, folks. Sorry about that. Anyway.
Are there photos of this one?
Yeah,
coming out?
Yeah, it's a new one. It's they put up recently. Just yeah, I'm sure. I know it's on the Batman Universe website, so you can probably find it. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Anyway, we're getting off topic. So, yes, the quotability factor, of course. Beyond that, we build up Joker's reveal. I love how we build up Joker's reveal, and we have the very famous thing. We kind of reference years later in the animated series too, to an extent. Like we have these building reveals of like the way we introduce Two-Face in the animated series, heavily influenced by how we introduce, the Joker. It's just he breaks the mirror and everything, all that.
Oh wait, this is from the Christian Bale ones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was from the '89.
No, well, there is one. Again, I told you the wouldn't hit a guy with glasses thing. There's that one.
Yeah. I thought they were making another one though. I get confused. Right.
Anyway, let's see. We have great talent. Again, we attract some great talent with you have Michael Gough, you have Jack Palance, you have Billy D. Williams. Again, really good kind of players.
Yeah, really good casting all around for sure.
Great performances in Keaton and Nicholson's especially.
Mm-hmm.
You guys got anything else?
No, I'm pretty tapped out.
Good cinematography.
I already kind of mentioned that with the technical stuff, but
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. But okay, last thing, the Joker's last laugh bit. always rings in my head like that last thing. Like the little laughing box.
Did anyone ever tell you about the curing power of laughter?
All right. Okay, cons. Let's con this thing like crazy, man. Okay, so let's get nuts. All right, third act. All the problems in this movie really are in the all if not most if not all the problems in this movie are in the third act, and there's a reason for it. So there was a writer's strike when this movie was made. So again, you have Sam Hamm who wrote the movie, and basically punched things up. And most of this happened in the third act, where basically he was writing it, and he wasn't able to be there when they were shooting it because of the writer's strike that was happening. But he did encourage Tim Burton not to make certain decisions. I mean, he fought Tim Burton on the big infamous things for this movie, like Joker killing Batman's parents and Vicki Vale in the Batcave. He begged Burton. I shouldn't say he begged. He advised him, like, no, you don't want to do that. And Tim Burton, he kind of had to make a choice, and he went for those. And then you have like these spur of the moment decisions, like John Peters and Peter Guber. They go see Fan of the Opera, and they get the influence. Let's do a cathedral for the third act.
Of course, Fan of the Opera was huge in the late '80s, as Monkey can tell you. It was a big like cultural event.
So, Dragon, what was the original ending for the movie then?
That's the thing. I really can't speak to what the original ending was, because again, I don't know if like the original script exists for that, because I'm sure there's the scripts will probably can be easily found. Bear in mind, I say that, but I know like we have those scripts of Robin and everything, so I'm sure you can probably find. I'm sure someone could find it. I just haven't done the proper digging to find that one. See like what it was before the cathedral. And it was like the old scripts of Robin in it. I know there was a delete. Oh, I got to tell you guys about the deleted Robin sequence, because the one that really
first, I just got to say, because the cathedral, I mean, it ties into everything. I mean, I think the first shot we see of Batman in the entire film is him on the cathedral.
Yeah,
in the movie when it's the overhead shot, and he's walking back into the cathedral on the roof. Remember that?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, real quick, there was like a whole deleted Robin section where, I mean, the one that almost made the cut, because there were for a few permutations of it, the one that actually they boarded it even. There's going to be a small bit where they're going to set up Robin in this movie, where during the car chase, I remember exactly where this was. So here's I believe this is when it was supposed to be. So Batman, when Bruce Wayne gets shot during that weird, you want to get nuts scene. During that scene, he gets shot and he disappears. There was supposed to be a whole sequence after. I don't know if it was a budget thing or maybe the Robin thing complicated it further, where Bruce Wayne was going to jump on horseback just like the Dark Knight Returns. I believe he might even suit up in the bat suit to ride the horse, which obviously would have presented some technical problems. So he was going to ride the horse, and eventually he was going to get into a chase with the Joker, and eventually he was going to be he was going to go passing through a circus, and you were going to have like the flying Graysons were performing, and Joker, to kind of cause a diversion, he like pulled like a Tommy gun or something. He basically he killed Robin's parents right there. He was going to like kind of cause this little diversion so he can get away. So that was like a whole sequence that was supposed to be in the movie. Got rid of it. Again, they wanted to kind of not complicate Robin. Would have left too many unanswered questions, and maybe been like, oh, well, again, if they didn't know exactly what the grand scaling plans were. Anyway,
yeah, I'm glad that wasn't in the final cut of the film, because
it
seems like it would have left too many things open-ended.
It makes sense why they wouldn't use Robin.
So again, I kind of brought up the third act stuff. So Tiki, let's get into it. Let's talk about Vicki and the Batcave.
Want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
You want to start there? Or you want to talk about Batcave?
Let's get nuts.
Well, let's start with the Batcave, because that's to me a really egregious one.
Well, not even the writers pretty much agreed with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I totally get that Alfred wants Bruce to have a normal life and everything. I get that for sure.
Vicki Vale, no Andrea Beaumont. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and the bigger problem is that he does it like Alfred. The problem is, it's like Alfred is like, as we see in this movie, he's like uber professional. He takes his job super seriously. So this just seems to be like a little bit of I mean, I'm sure he thought it through, but it seems a little careless,
It does. I mean, that's Bruce's secret to spill, not Alfred's.
Exactly.
Yep. It's just how fast and deeply in love she falls with Bruce.
Oh, that's a
Just
major
feels-
issue. Well, that's that's.
I'm
totally
saying that's basically you get that moment because of all of that. So it's kind of the ultimate kind of like coup d'état of all that stuff that they fell in love really that deeply in love that fast. I mean, they've only known each other for roughly a week.
If that, yeah.
If that even. I mean, so I'm saying like I didn't quite do the day-night cycle on it, but I mean at least we know that. He mentions like going away for 2 weeks, so presumably at least a week or two. Again, but obviously she knows he doesn't leave, so it's a question like how long. Anyway, they have the celebration, probably tracked by like the 200-year celebration coming up. I don't want to get into semantics. Point being, they fall in love way too fast, and the point where it'd be like getting to the point where like I get where they're going with the story, and I get like what Keaton's playing. He's playing again like when he's around her, the pain isn't quite as bad. Again, they're trying to make kind of an Andre Beaumont thing, but that's not enough time to get to that place. It really isn't. All right, so speaking of Vicki Vale, so we saw about the whole let's get nuts thing. So there's actually, I can't say if it was 100% John Peters, but here's the thing. It's always been speculated. I mean, Kevin Smith's always speculated that's purely so they can get Keaton out of the bat suit for a scene. It's kind of it's the old adage where you have the actor without the costume, without the mask. That's why third act of Iron Man, it's Downey Jr. without the mask on the rooftop scene. You have there's always a scene where you have the actor minus the mask within the movie. That's why we have all those unmasking scenes in the Spider-Man movies. We do that because we want to give the actor face time. I don't know if it's a contractual thing or what, or sometimes they have to write it. In this case, they either wrote it in pure. The scene feels crazy enough to be a John Peters scene. That's why I think it's John Peters, because it just feels like we need action, man. It's just too much talking. We need action, like street fighting. I mean, John Peters, he made odd choices that did end up in the movie. There's one that didn't make the cut, and there's one that he wanted. When Batman says, "I'm Batman," you know what he wanted.
What did he want?
This is going to sound crazy, but it's John Peters, so you know it's true. He wanted Batman to hold the guy up, and he says, "What are you?" He says, "I'm Batman, mother." You get the full MF. He wanted the full.
Oh God!
Oh boy!
I mean, take that for what you want. It's John Peters.
Know of this story by any chance?
Yeah, let's put that on the poster.
I'm sorry. What was it, Tiki?
I said, did Frank Miller know of this story by any chance?
No, but it is recorded. Again, it's on the Superman Lives documentary. Tiki. I mean, he said this on camera that he said he wanted that to happen without an ounce of irony. He wanted that.
It's from the guy that says, "I'm the goddamn Batman."
I mean, again, would have predated that by
Oh, Dragon, I have a really funny Frank Miller thing, a Frank Miller antidote, really quick. Okay, so I went to go see the new zombie movie, what is it? The Dead Don't Die.
Oh, the new Bill Murray thing, right?
Yeah. It's okay. We'll talk about it on Memoirs. I'll get more into detail on it. But
a good trailer.
But Tom Waits' character is like this crazy man, right? This like nomadish, like hermit, crazy man, right? And his name is Farmer Miller.
Oh God.
Guess what his first name is?
Is it Frank?
It is indeed Frank.
Oh, jeez. I wonder if that's intentional.
Like Adam Driver is just like, no, Bill, we don't need to disturb Frank.
Oh God.
Side note in that Adam Driver has a fucking ridiculous accent in that movie, and I love it. Anyways,
the other big piercing that actually did make it in the movie, and he touts it off like crazy. Like he said the Kevin Smith, and he said during the whole Superman Lives thing, he mentioned that remember when Batman's accosted by the Joker's thugs, and one of them has like the samurai swords. He's kind of like going, and basically it's a Raiders of the Lost Ark knockoff. He basically kicks him. John Peters says, "You know why Batman was a success? Because that was a real sword. That was a real swordsman."
Oh no! Oh God!
They brought in a professional. He spent the extra money, got a professional.
Like a Tom Peters scene too.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure there are other bits like that in the movie, but I mean, that's as far as it publicly is known.
Like, all right, we gotta have Batman fight off against swordsmen.
So the point being, all that said, just getting the feel for the John Peters, do you want to get nuts? Doesn't that feel John Peters-esque, that whole sequence? I
mean, yes, but by the same point, I kind of love the "let's get nuts" delivery.
I love Bruce Wayne getting under the Joker's skin by just kind of like that way. Because again, I've seen some of that in the animated series and episodes we'll get to, but that I do, I do appreciate that. But again, logically, the biggest problem with that scene is like Joker he shows up and then he leaves. It's not like the Dark Knight. Dark Knight, he leaves for a good reason. He wants to get out of there. In this case, it's like, well, if you're going to terrorize Vicki Vale, why wouldn't you just kidnap her? Then there's no Batman. You presumably killed Bruce Wayne, and again, like we've added like a follow-up sequence. It's just like, what's the deal? It was really awful. Like we end the scene on like the little boom moment with like the weird hand holding the flowers, and he does like the bird thing. It's an old like the bird dance. I think it's what it's officially called. Little boo when he leaves the room. It's like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Why in the world is this going on here?
That's the thing. It's just it's a scene again. The scene they wrote again. It feels like the Act 3 stuff where they just wrote in things on a whim. Where some of it worked. The Cathedral looks great. In this case, they wrote in something just because they felt like it. They want to give Keaton some face time, and it doesn't play.
Yeah,
but it's very quotable though. Let's get nuts.
All right. So one of the last.
Before we move on, can someone explain to me what in the world he was talking about in that scene?
What specifically?
How I knew some guy and whatever.
Well, in the earlier scene, he read Jack Napier's file, and he's using that information to get under his skin because again, it's like the whole personal tie thing was getting on that. Where again, he knows this guy. He doesn't know he killed his parents because he actually finds out in the scene with the pale moonlight. That's where the lines first drop, and he kind of leads him down the path. Ultimately, the point being, he read up on his file, and that's how he had that information during that scene.
All right. I've never liked that scene.
Well, again, it's a crazy scene. I don't blame you. Anyway, okay, so big one. Okay, speaking of which, Joker killing Batman's parents.
It's not that big of a deal for me, honestly.
Doesn't it just feel like it's such a small world after all? That scene doesn't it just bother you in the slightest?
No.
I mean, look, it adds motivation to Batman's character. It doesn't, like, in the context of this particular movie, it doesn't really bother me.
Had they gotten a younger Joker, I think they would have been in trouble. But if they had, given they got Jack Nicholson, I guess that
younger Joker, and so I think it works fine. It's not like I don't really consider that a big con.
And Bob Kane actually wished he thought of it.
Which again,
it's
and not necessarily the highest praise, but
yeah, you got to take that one. Maybe a silo of salt, but I get your point though. I mean, basically, what it feels here's the problem with it. Okay, it's less the fact that it happened; it's more the fact of why we have it. It's the fact that this is compensating for the lack. Because Batman and Joker, until that face-off, there's no. Again, I'm talking about what the representative of the obsession, but there's really no actual scene between them. Again, there's a scene between him and Jack Napier, but there's no scene between like full costume, Batman and Joker, and there's no there's no like real dynamic. There's no like famous Batman Joker dynamic in this movie, really. Because of the fact that that this was their answer to it. Okay, he killed his parents. That's the dynamic, right? And I mean, it basically it's them doing the best they can with again like just letting Jack Nicholson decide all the Jokers. We're not saying it's a terrible thing. I'm just saying that again, I think that's why we kind of worked him into the origin. I think it's why we just kind of like made things really kind of small circle, or just kind of made things kind of small world in that regard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's more because it's very infamous. So I mean, again, it's at the end of the day that it serves the story, but I say at what cost. But it's not uberly sacrilegious, but it's like I think. And good for Joe Chill. Again, random crime.
I'm not really a big diehard comic fan, so that's if it was.
Yeah,
It's funny because the Sandman killing Uncle Ben thing bothers me a lot, Dragon, and that's because I am a really big Spider-Man comic fan, and of course Uncle Ben is really fundamental to the character. So it's, I don't know. It's like I could see how it would bother you because, like I said, that Sandman Uncle Ben thing does.
It's the fact that years later,
the
fact that years later we do Joe Chill and Batman Begins and it plays great. That's why I had to stop myself earlier on because we did do it. Just pretty straightforward. We have just random crime. Again, it would kind of challenge the film to be a little bit stronger in that regard. Just kind of have Batman and Joker know each other in some other ways, but no, we have to do that because we can't get away with just random crime. What it represents, we got to say no. It's this character who is like he has like a random thought process. He is the very same guy. All criminals. That's
You know, whenever I've seen that that bit in the movie, I just say, because twist endings and twists and stories.
I mean, again, Keaton is
it.
playing it beautifully, though. I do like, on the rewatch. I
He
love
is,
Keaton
but
putting
it-
together the mystery, but
He is, but it's just because twists, you know.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Okay, here's a big gripe. My biggest gripe with Vicki Vale, because I've honestly looked in later years. I've looked past the whole Vicki Vale screaming at everything, but I tell you, the biggest problem though with Vicki Vale is still rewatching this movie. I think the most ridiculous Vicki Vale moment for me, I'm melting, where she splashes water in the Joker's face, and he's like, "I'm melting," and she's consoling him. He's trying to melt you with acid. And you're consoling him? And you're supposed to be the gritty photographer.
God.
Really? And you fell for it?
And I mean, his goons are standing right there. It's like, why aren't they doing anything?
Yeah.
Why are you doing something and they're just standing there?
Maybe I'll play devil's advocate. I've never liked. Look, here's the thing. I've never I don't have a big problem with it. I'm just wondering the Joker's flesh makeup. Like I always seen the kid in me is always like I want to see him. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is him, but he has like that flesh makeup on. If they didn't have the flesh makeup, I think it'd be a perfect scene. But it's like I don't like him with the flesh makeup on. Like, what do you
Neither
guys
do
think?
I.
I think they should have just gotten rid of it as a whole because they obviously they want like reveals. That's why they put in there. It's one of two things. One, it's reveals. I think the practical reason is in some scenes I'd imagine they just need to do flesh makeup on the extended smile, which make it easier for them. So I wonder if that's like the whole have your heroes with the mask off or have your villains with like kind of a moment where you don't have to put them in full makeup. So
because they talked about this in the behind the scenes stuff. Where they had tried to figure out how to put the flesh tone makeup on top of the white stuff. So once he splashed it off, the flesh tone would come off, but he still have the white face. So it's full on 2 layers of makeup in that scene.
That's a point.
It's got to look consistent too, so that they can't have Anyways,
yeah, I mean you're right. I'm saying maybe not in all scenes because remember, he has the flesh makeup on at least 4 to 5 scenes, and 2 of those scenes he needs the double layer of makeup. I mean the other scenes.
Yeah,
I mean, you're point being.
But I agree with you. I think they should have left the whole flesh tone thing out completely because it's not the Joker,
So, I mean, he has this big, very obvious smile. I mean, what's just the white face? What will that hurt? I mean, really, it's like how much? Obviously, he's going to look really different.
Well, again, life's been good to me. We got that. So.
Okay, we're really on the nose with Bruce Wayne hanging upside down like a bat during, like some people say he's sleeping that way. Some people, again, it's obviously not, I think he's just working out, but why does he have to work out like in the same room upside down with Vicki Vale there? And just I get it. He's a Batman. All right, I get it. He doesn't have to be upside down.
I never got that.
That to me is a head scratcher of a scene where we're working. He's quirky. It's like, dude, I get that he's quirky. He's, look at like, are you Bruce Wayne? Like that whole. Anyway, sorry, I'm jumping to. I don't want to step on other moments, but yeah.
It's like if I woke in the middle of the night and saw that, I'd say, "Oh yeah, you must be the Batman." It's kind of a no-brainer. You're rich and you hang upside down all night. Right. Yeah, you're a Batman.
So speaking of Eckhart, the hard sell for me is obviously we're not doing year 1 here, where again we can't really, especially with this take on Gordon, we can't really do like a full, Gordon's working with corruption within the system and have it be a storyline because that'd be crazy, right? But what we do have is Eckhart, who Gordon knows is dirty. He's like, Eckhart, oh God, he knows this guy's a dirty cop. He doesn't like working with him. Yet again, Eckhart botches the whole thing. Eckhart's got the reason things go sideways and everything. Why would Gordon still employ this man if he's the commissioner of police at this point? He's not like lieutenant working his way up. He's like, you could fire him.
Yeah, I agree.
The other, I know the major thing. I'm trying to think. If you guys have anything small, should we just get to the whole death of the Joker thing?
I don't know, man. I think we're taking a little long on the pros and cons in general. So
yeah, we should get moving on.
Yeah. Well, again, we're killing Joker at the end is a little. We didn't kill him off unambiguously. We just kind of like fully kill the Joker, which kind of killed him for any sequel potential. So that's unfortunate. And also.
Which kind of ironic considering his first appearance, he was actually in the comics. He was actually supposed to die.
Yeah.
I've got a question here.
Yeah.
where in this version of this universe, where do you think they buried the Joker? Do you think they just cremated him or what?
Well, I know in the Arkham games they like to cremate him and just.
Like Arkham Knight opens with you yourself flicking the switch to cremate the Joker.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'd imagine that, but it'd be hilarious if they buried him.
Yeah, if so, where did they bury him?
Here lies Joker. Batman had the last laugh.
It'd be like that scene from Toys at Robin Williams, where they have like the like the laughing thing on the inside, where they just keep the laughing box inside. Anyway,
or the Jack in the Box.
Yeah, okay. This is the last important one. It's a real brief one. Just the bat symbol. We got to talk about the bat symbol thing.
Oh yeah.
This whole movie is marketed on the very straightforward, awesome bat symbol.
Yeah. Right.
In the movie, for some reason, I think I know. I can
like
guess
Luke Skywalker in Episode 7.
I mean, I could guess why, but of course, it has little bat feet on the symbol in the first movie's costume, which of course they fixed in Returns. It looks great in Returns. But that's the question. Like, why would they of all the things to get wrong, when your whole marketing campaign is this symbol? How do you get that wrong? I mean, I think the reason is it was like the third act stuff.
I've never heard your voice get so high pitched.
Well, what exactly did they get wrong in the movie?
He has bat feet on the symbol. Like it doesn't look like the bat symbol that we have here right in front of us.
And the signal at the end?
Oh, I thought it was just the fact that the bat symbol doesn't show up until the very end.
No. I mean, throughout the whole movie, the symbol that's on the costume is wrong.
Oh, okay.
Is it? I never noticed that.
I mean, they got the bat signal right, but that's what I'm saying. The whole movie. Wait, Tiki, you tell me you've never seen that before?
You're right.
Because I don't want to say yes because I'm not a nerd, but kind of.
Wow, you're absolutely right, Dragon. Yeah, you're right.
I'm amazed. Amazed no one's.
What happened?
Okay, Jacob, surely you know that throughout all these years, '89, they got the symbol in the costume.
Oh my god, I really don't think it's that big of a deal, Dragon.
I'm sorry, it's just this thing's bothered me for years. It's amazing. None of you guys have ever noticed it.
I mean,
to me, it's like a blooper. I don't think it's that shocking.
Right.
I mean, it's not too out of the bed. I mean, it's just like a white. It's just a yellow symbol with a bat in it.
Yeah, but like the little feet went. Okay, it doesn't. Anyway. All right. So.
I mean, it's just there. I guess.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, okay. I guess we'll move on then.
All right, so favorite scenes. I think I've got chronologically the first ones, right?
You do, yes.
All right, so of course we got to talk. I'm Batman, right?
Yes, we do. We absolutely have to. Yes.
Who are you? I'm Batman.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends who I am. I want you to send a message. Who are you? I'm Batman. I mean, iconic. Everyone knows that moment. We don't really have to go over why it's great. It's great. Everyone knows it. But what I want to talk about briefly is kind of how that moment is built up. I love how the first 10 minutes of the movie are like this kind of it almost feels like a documentary. It's almost kind of like life on the streets of Gotham City.
Mm-hmm.
And, people are kind of like talking up the bad and you don't know what's real and what's not. And of course, everyone who's familiar with Batman, everyone who's familiar with Batman knows what the deal is. But think about this, guys. Think about this. This is kind of why I sort of regret my parents not showing me this one first. If you had no idea who Batman actually was and you were watching this movie, how cool of a reveal is that?
It is, and I meant to mention this during Pros, Tiki, but one of the great things about the opening of this movie is we have that misdirect with the family. But what that misdirect conveys so wonderfully is that, again, we have the mission of Batman in the opening of this movie. He's trying to stop his origin from happening to other people. And certainly, like how we build to that origin scene, we show Batman's mission in effect in the opening 5 minutes of this movie.
I mean, he didn't really stop it. He came in much later when they had already gone.
I mean, he got justice for him. So I mean, and they didn't get killed. So it's okay. Well, now you're just trying to. The point being, you show in some way, shape, or form again, stopping the criminals who mugged him, so he's getting justice for him. It's something. Sorry, Tiki, you were saying, go on.
Yeah. I that's pretty much all I have to say. I really love the build up, kind of like the atmosphere, sort of like the gritty, like, like life on the streets of Gotham City kind of vibe that we get in those opening 10 minutes. And then of course it's all sort of punctuated by the I'm Batman thing. Really good, really well done. I love when we first meet Bruce Wayne. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie as an adult. It's like, I'll fully admit, as a kid, to quote Mr. Plinkett, it was one of the boring scenes. But no, nowadays I have a totally different appreciation for it. Like, I love, like, basically you get everything you need to know about Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne in this moment. Where he distances himself from the Bruce Wayne persona. He doesn't want to be viewed as this kind of like billionaire playboy, and then Vicki Vale just not like looking in his face and not knowing that he's Bruce Wayne. It intrigues him, and I really like that as the start of Bruce Wayne and Vicki Vale's connection. The movie kind of messes it up, unfortunately, as we go along, but I like it as a starting point. It's a good starting point. And then, of course, we have that scene with Knox and Vicky, where Bruce is kind of surprising him, and I really love the pleasantry of Bruce being like, Alfred, get this man a grant.
Get Knox a grant.
So just generally, I don't know, and of course we get to see that kind of like socially awkward side of Bruce Wayne that I sort of talked up. So yeah, just generally speaking, I'm a really big fan of how we introduce Bruce Wayne. It's very subtle. It's, it almost kind of reminds me of like The Great Gatsby, where where the character's talking to the main guy without even realizing that he's talking to him.
Yep.
All right. Who's next?
Well, I mean, technically, I think it'd be Jacob. Of course, but some of us have kind of moments from like chronological, then later on in the movies. I mean,
of course, yeah.
I think technically it'd probably be you, Jacob. So there you go.
My 2 moments.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked about this movie was the birth of Joker. Yeah, because the whole scene is like up to the scene where he kills what's the guy's name?
Grissom.
Grissom, yes. Sorry. Well, Grissom. Up until
Here
that
we can cut a deal.
Basically, it's like the start of the insanity, if you would call it, the start of the madness with Joker. And because it takes cues from a very good comic line, Under the Red Hood. I mean, I don't know if it's Under the Red Hood or just the fact that was it Under the Red Hood or just like the regular Red Hood Joker story.
Uh-huh.
Either way, it took cues from Red Hood, and I basically just really appreciate all the way that scene, the way those particular scenes are set up, and it just basically shows the Joker, even though he's basically shows Nicholson at the top of his game here, and basically shows this is not a Joker to be trifled with. Not Caesar. This is definitely not Caesar Romero Joker.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Yes, pretty much. And basically the other scene I went with, because I couldn't really think of any other notable scenes that you guys took, was the revelation of Joker being the killer of Batman's parents. I mean, I thought it was an interesting take on the character. It kind of worked for the sake of this movie, and definitely gave I mean, as a standalone movie, it definitely makes a bit of sense if they're. You know what I'm trying to say here. I mean, obviously it's not one of the strongest points in the movie, but it's definitely one that stands out.
Mm.
All right. I guess it'll be me next. Then. Okay, my moments are these two. So again, they're both Joker moments. I mean, some runners up probably would have been I'm Batman. It's just basically, I'm so glad Tiki got I'm Batman, because I'd be remiss. I'd be kicking myself if we never talked about I'm Batman as a moment. But there's also the mime scene, which is really good. That was more of kind of a deep cuts personal one for me. I love the mime scene where he gets a face-to-face glimpse with the Joker. It's kind of a cool moment. But no, the 2 moments when I think 89, the moments if 89's playing on TV and one of these 2 scenes is on, I have to stop and I have to watch these scenes because I love them. One is the Smilex commercial. So,
God.
my
Yeah.
favorite episode of Batman the Animated Series, without hesitation, is Laughing Fish. I love Laughing Fish so much, and Laughing Fish, of course, features Joker doing the commercial. You doing they're finny and funny and oh so delicious. The Joker fish, that whole thing. Love it. Point being, so I love it when the Joker just kind of like hijacks media, or he just kind of intercepts the broadcast, and he's just doing these. The fact he puts in all the elbow grease, it goes for like this obviously like a staged or hostage broadcast. He's like using dead. In this case, he's using dead bodies. It's just oh god, it's so horrific yet so entertaining. He's such a showman in what he's doing here. And we have this bit where he takes over the airways after he's basically killed an anchor live on air using the product. So he's demonstrating what his product can do. And then it has this happy-go-lucky commercial break it's like, we're going to go commercial right now, almost. So playing on the fact that they would have to go commercial when something bad happens, the Joker takes over, and we have this wonderful, and just this is where I love Jack Nicholson's performances. We're like, yes, and it's just Jack Nicholson just hopping around like he's on like that shopping spree show, it's like shopping, like one of those shows. He's like, he's looking for I'd like to introduce you to a new product, Smilex. And the thing I kind of noticed is like he holds on the S's, which I swear to God, like years later, like reading the Scott Snyder Joker. I mean, Scott Snyder Joker holds on the S's. I wonder if that's Snyder, like a little homage to the Jack Nicholson Joker, where he holds on the S's, like Smilex. And of course, we see like the two women that he's killed. They're talking about in the very news where he's like they have them as cardboard cutouts. I guess he like photocopied them somehow. And just love that Joker. He's just talking about like
love
it goes
that
like
Joker.
I love Brand X. Brand X is my favorite part of the whole thing. He just goes to the next room to demonstrate the prices. Oh, he doesn't look very happy. He's been using Brand X. You should use Smilex. So it'll give you a grin that'll come back again and again.
The Joker's got a really great art director too for that his commercial stuff. I mean,
he does, because then he's like sitting on the beach with like the fake, like the fake bird, the fake seagull on the chair and everything. It's like the dialogue is so on point. Basically, it's the most. I would argue it might be the most Joker-like thing in the entire movie. This sequence,
I think so.
Like from the book Joker, it like feels like Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil Joker. To it, which at the time would be like the most accurate Joker you could have, and it's like the whole. I think I love the and a hair color so natural, only your Undertaker will know for sure. It's just it's so wonderfully written. I can go on forever. That point below. It's the next one, another very Joker-like scene. I just love when they're so on point with the Joker. Is the Party Man museum scene. So one, I love the.
I think is kind of like unanimously most people's favorite scene.
Yeah, and this as a kid, this is one.
It's so much fun. There's so much energy there. It's definitely my favorite scene from when I was a kid, for sure.
Yeah, me too. So Party Man, of course, this to me is the most. The other Prince songs, I mean, look, they're fine in the movie. I have no problem with them. It's just I feel like
look, I think the Prince songs fit the soundtrack more than the Seal songs fit the Batman Forever soundtrack.
And you're right.
Yes,
I'm saying again, like as Jacob, I believe Jacob or Sandy said earlier, again, like if it had not been focused on the Joker, then obviously would have come out of left field, because obviously these are very befitting. Like the Trust song later on is like the one I could take or leave, but it's fine. It does make sense for existence. But the one that the one of the things that feels most appropriate is Party Man. And even when we've done pitches, Tiki, we've done pitches of the Joker. I love Jokers with a boombox entering the room, playing his own theme music, playing music just to what he's doing in the scene. And this feels so Joker, especially to what this Joker is, who is I'm the world's first homicidal artist. Where he's this Joker, as we established, again, he's a chemist as well as an artist who kind of deals in death and just psychosis. Where he enters this museum and he's just Jokerizing everything, which even with the Heath Ledger Joker years later, we know Joker, he just loves to vandalize. And again, he's all about getting his name out there and competing with Batman and just like Batman's stealing his press, he's going to make a mark. In this case, he's doing it in the literal sense where he goes around, he and his henchmen, they're sort of wreaking havoc on this museum if they knocked everybody out, possibly killed them, I don't know. And this, he's like the $1 bill, and the fact that he likes the bacon painting, he likes the think it's Francis Bacon. I believe that's the artist's name. Basically, I think it's called Figure with Meat. Of course, it's always for years. I never knew. I looked at it like a few years ago. Just for years, I never knew why he liked that one painting. Like Bob's about to take a knife to this painting. He says, "No, Bob, leave it. I kind of like this one." And it's kind of like gas. It's kind of like the gas glow type stuff. I believe Bacon was doing. It's like harsh art. That's kind of the idea. Well, that's the gag there. And also, fun fact: Christopher Nolan's favorite painter is that guy, and that influenced the Heath Ledger look in The Dark Knight to him. Fascinating, right? Anyway, just that whole thing is like you playing like then he's playing like the Relaxo Vision music when he's having his date with Vicki Vale, and it's wonderful. Again, it would be plus if he had the clown makeup on the whole time. But again, the point being, it's a great, very Joker-like. He's Joker wreaking havoc, but again, being very true to character, just being a lot of fun. Oh, my favorite part of the paintings though, Joker was here. Is the perfect little Joker was here, literally making his mark. It's wonderful. Okay.
So Sandy, go ahead.
All right, so I had the parade and the cathedral fight at the end. So the parade, I think, has always been one of my favorite scenes. I just
really
think
like parades in superhero movies, Sandy.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Spider-Man and now this. I think you're right. Well,
I know your favorite scene is going to be in Spider-Man 3.
Oh God.
Oh no. Yeah. No thanks.
I think Spider-Man 3, it's going to be a challenge for us to get like 8 moments between the 4 of us.
Basically, we're all going to be competing for one scene. I know that much already.
You know, I know my moments for Spider-Man 3. I can say that safely. Anyways, so yeah,
I know one of my moments from Spider-Man 3, and no one's going to take it away from me.
Well, I might fight you for it because I know we have the same moment.
No, I know. I will fight you for it. You are not taking pie from me. No way.
Oh no, sorry. No, wait, hold it. I got the wrong moment. You're right. Pie's yours. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. I
can't fight you on pie. Okay, we're getting sidetracked. Back to Sandy. Back to his thing. Go on.
Oh God.
Anyways,
you sound like Dragon. You sound just like Dragon.
So I have the parade and the cathedral fight. I love the parade scene first and foremost because this is a really great display of the effects in the movie. You've got the giant balloons, which are really great practical effects. I mean, they had full-scale balloons, they had miniature balloons, they had the balloons floating up into the sky, which are miniatures.
All very Burton looking.
It's all, yeah, exactly. It's all very Burton looking. You have the Batwing, which is both a miniature and a full, made to scale vehicle. It's really, really great. Of course, the city itself, there's a bunch of miniatures and matte paintings. It's really, really beautiful. I think it's really fun too. The songs are really catchy. And it's what? Oh,
sorry.
Saying something?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, it's a really fun scene. Also, the cathedral fight. I think the score in this scene, with the whole cathedral scene, from when the Batwing crashes and then finally when Joker falls to his death, the music and all of that is really, really beautiful. The cathedral set is really great. I really wanted to see the cathedral in Batman Returns. I really wanted to see the Joker referenced in Batman Returns, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Really great scenes. I gotta say, I was anyone else just kind of put off at how unthrilling, I guess, the Joker's death was.
I mean, again, I don't agree with him dying, but I gotta admit, as a kid though, it was effective how they had the whole the laughing box shot at the end there, and just
Yeah, I guess I just never thought the Joker would go up by falling to his death.
He did in the very first appearance though. I mean, one of the very first Batman stories was kind of like one of them was kind of like a falling sort of thing. That's why the Dark Knight has a falling thing too as well. I mean.
The funny thing is, in the original story, he was actually supposed to die, basically just be a one-off character.
Exactly, and you're right.
And the editor like actually saw potential. He saw potential of the fact that they didn't want him to die, and thus made them reveal that he's actually alive.
And that's why the Joker has the unkillable running gag, where it's like he always looks like he dies. Especially Joker, the most popular one is him falling from a great height. So that's kind of why they. Anyway.
Yeah. So great scene. All in all, great scene. I'm done.
Okay.
Final thoughts. I'll go first, guys. I mean, let's keep it simple here because we've been talking for more than 2 hours about this thing. Yeah, I mean, I just think, like I said, I'll say it again. It's a masterclass in Burton filmmaking. It doesn't necessarily feel like an overly Tim Burton movie. Like it doesn't ooze Burton style in the same way that Batman Returns does, but I feel like it's kind of all the better for it because it's Burton kind of having to work within a framework of an existing property and make it creative. And I really do feel like it's a great example of like a director imprinting his own vision onto a source material without sacrificing the integrity of the source material for the most part.
Impressive considering that Tim Burton was never really a comic book fan.
Anyone who knows me knows that I would never read a comic book.
That's always dicey because they keep going back and forth on that too, with the whole like, because they said they were giving out copies of Killing Joke all over the place, and it was like, well, did he mean it? Was he just saying lines to the camera? Like, what's going on?
I think he was just being a dick, honestly.
Yeah, I think you're right about that too. I think
he was really a comic book at some point in time. We can't ever say we've never.
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean,
it really,
Tim Burton. According, at least at the time, he only liked a few comic books.
Yeah, and that again, and I don't want to get into the whole like Kevin Smith and Tim Burton. Tim Burton was Tim Burton plagiarized Kevin Smith, right?
Yeah, that was the gag. And again, he didn't actually do it, but it's like a coincidence more so. But yeah, you're right. Anyway. The Planet of the Apes remake joke. That's what. Anyway.
All right, so yeah, I generally speaking, it's it really kind of shaped the tone of modern day superhero blockbusters, and it showed us importantly that superhero blockbusters didn't have to just be these kind of like really hopeful, optimistic Superman affairs. They could be a little dark. They could have some grit to them, and it would be another roughly 16 years before we got a perfect realization of what a dark Batman on film could look like. But this definitely paved the way for that.
Absolutely. And then this one's not trying to be realistic. It's trying to be fun and fantastic. Stylized, fantastic. And it's a popcorn movie, much like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not trying to pinpoint down the realism every aspect. It's really fun. You can watch it over and over again, enjoy it every time. It's not trying to be hardcore.
Right. Jacob?
I mean, I can't really say much that hasn't really been said already. I mean, definitely worth a watch. I mean, it's definitely a movie that's ingrained in American culture nowadays. I mean, pretty much, but if it wasn't for this and Dark Knight Returns, Batman probably wouldn't be where he is today.
Oh, he definitely wouldn't.
I mean, it's pretty much like this. Like, The Dark Knight Returns pretty much paved the way for this, and this paved the way for pretty much everything else.
Yep.
Pretty much Batman's gateway to the modern era.
Okay, for me, look, there is a great debt owed to '89 for Batman, for comic book movies, for Tim Burton's career, for blockbusters, you name it. Even if '89's shaky plot-wise, especially towards Act 3. I mean, again, the one I completely forgot to mention with cons, I got to address, otherwise we're going to be kicking ourselves here. Of course, Batman does try to actively murder the Joker in Act 3. Remarkably unsuccessfully, too, by the way. He's just really bad at it, too. Just missing him completely. And again, believe me, in my youth, I would try to excuse the whole blowing up that factory of guys, but the way that's shot, I don't know.
Point being, all those people.
yeah, and again, but point being, it's not as bad as it is in Returns, to be honest. Okay, it's not as bad as Batman actively murdering people in Returns, but the point being, this movie does have some flaws that do still stick around today. But again, the film was the first ambitious, trailblazer. It was in not only an adaptation but the summer blockbuster, and we all forgive it and gripe about it because we can gripe about it, and we can have these little, you can have cons, we can just kind of bring up all this stuff, we can complain because this thing gave us a right to in the first place, because now we have all other Batman films to compare it to. We have Nolan films because of this movie, all thanks to this movie existing in the first place. This movie, at the end of the day, this movie feels like Batman. It's a theatrical Batman movie in many senses of the word. Theatrical in how, again, Batman's being represented, theatrical in how it kind of has ingrained itself in the culture, and it deserves all the respect that it gets. The impact is staggering, and why we're talking about 30 years later, and of course in the grand 80-year history of the Batman. So good stuff there.
All right. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. We do have some more Batman stuff on the horizon. Batman versus Ninja Turtles just came out, and
boy.
Coincidentally enough, the next animated Batcave episode that Dragon and I have to cover is Dragon. Tell him.
Night of the Ninja.
Night of the Ninja. Yes, so we're going to do a double header covering Night of the Ninja and Batman meets TMNT. So that'll be fun. And yeah, in the meantime, we've got plenty more content. Of course, this week is all about Toy Story 4. So we've got the big Pixar debate coming up. Our first reactions to Toy Story 4, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. See y'all later.
Mm-hmm.
Evidence with the devil in the pale moonlight.
Love that Joker.